Chapter 1263. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Streaks of light flashed, and the void was filled with a series of floating shadows. The injured geniuses on the monster ranking and the potential geniuses had all been rescued. Lin Xingqian walked slowly in the void, unconcerned. His golden eyes scanned the four islands. After a while, he frowned slightly. "He's not here. Didn't you say that the kid is participating?" Swoosh! He stepped on a sword gleam and came to the space above the beautiful woman in green. He put his hands behind his back and questioned her indifferently. "Woman, where's Lin Chun? Didn't you say that he's participating in the meeting here? If you can't give me a satisfactory answer, I'll kill you first and then slaughter all those trash." He looked down at her condescendingly, as if he was born this way. "He's here for Lin Chun? What did this kid do to provoke such a person?" The beautiful woman in green trembled. She knew that Lin Chun was a troublemaker, but she didn't expect him to provoke such a person. However, this time, it was the green-robed beauty who was in the wrong. Only this time, it wasn't Lin Chun who had provoked Lin Xingqian, but the latter who had provoked him. Or perhaps, the two of them had an unseen battle that would only end when one of them died. Why would Lin Chun provoke such a person? What's the background of this kid? A drop of crimson water dotted the void. Fairy Scarlet eavesdropped and heard everything clearly. She couldn't help but think more highly of Lin Chun. This guy's really a monster. I can't believe he fought his way here. In the South Island, a pale-faced young man laughed strangely, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. In order to calm Lin Xingqian down, the beautiful woman in green frowned. "If you want Lin Chun, he'll follow the Tower Master." Before she could finish, the young man's laughter rang in Lin Xingqian's ears. "I'm here." In the East Island, a group of figures floated in the air. Lin Chun stood in front, and Bai Ruoyan followed closely beside him, holding Lin Chun tightly in her hand. Lin Chun stared straight at Lin Xingqian. Towards this person, he had a feeling that he was destined to meet his doom. Lin Chun did not believe in fate, but he could faintly feel that if he continued to grow, there would be a day when he would meet Lin Xingqian again. But he had not expected that day to come so soon. He was very curious. How would this guy fight his way here? Just to hunt him down? I'm afraid it's not that simple. Perhaps there is a deeper meaning and motive behind it. He is the one who trespassed into the Boundary Tower. Too young. This old man has never seen such a monster before. Could it be someone from that world? Just like the saints of the Four Islands, the rank 7 giants and elders didn't dare to recklessly make a move against Lin Xingqian. If it was a reclusive old man or a veteran powerhouse, they would not be afraid at all and would attack when necessary. But if it was a young monster, it might not be the case. If you beat up the small ones, you might end up provoking a group of monsters. The two elders shuttled through the void and came to Old Shun's side. The beautiful lady in green retreated to his side and whispered a few words into his ear. Old Shun frowned and understood the situation. "Sir, you dare to openly kill people in the Boundary Tower. Tell me your name. No matter what your background is, you won't be able to escape unscathed." Old Shun waved his sleeves and asked indifferently. Lin Xingqian frowned. Among the people present, there weren't many who could attract his attention. This Old Shun was one of them. Not going to answer? Forget it. If I let you do as you wish, you will damage the reputation of the Boundary Tower. Today, I will capture you and let the power behind you come and take you away. Old Shun's sleeve shook. His hands, which did not have any sane energy fluctuations, were aimed at Lin Xingqian and clapped. The entire space of the 4th level suddenly trembled and distorted. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Xingqian's space seemed to be locked down, and a transparent cube appeared and sealed him. Old Shun's strength was unfathomable. Lin Xingqian couldn't help but be moved. He could vaguely sense that Old Shun's cultivation realm was not much different from the elders of the other grade, 7 Sex and Ing Tao Tian. However, cultivation realm was cultivation realm, and strength was strength. These were two different things. For example, If an ordinary saint at the great circle of cavern expansion opened 40 saint points, his acupoints would be expanded by 25 to 50 times. If an ordinary saint point opened 40 saint points, his acupoints would be expanded by 150 times, 200 times, or even more. If they were both at the great circle of the fourth heaven true saint realm, an ordinary cavern expansion realm expert could defeat an ordinary cavern expansion realm expert with a single finger. This was the difference in strength. Lin Xingqian's brows were tightly knitted together as he was imprisoned. Forget it. I can only kill this old thing when I'm at my peak. Because of that woman from the demonic tribe, my injuries have yet to fully recover. I can only rely on external strength for now. Lin Xingqian suddenly pulled out his sword and bit the tip of his tongue, spitting out a mouthful of blood onto the sword. Sword intent, which was like a five-colored cloud, grew. 5 Emperor's sword Qi, White Emperor's sword. Lin Xingqian swiftly waved his sword, and the blade emitted a dazzling white sword light that split the sky. Clang, rumble, bang, bang. The seal that Old Shun had personally set up had actually been broken. What was even more terrifying was that the countless white sword lights were like thousands of flying swords, slicing through the void and actually cutting the space on the 4th level of the World Pagoda. Lin Shun and Byron, who were standing in front of many experts, didn't even have time to move before the white sword lights cut through the space. At this moment, even Old Shun and the other experts' expressions changed. Rumble. The space on the 4th level of the World Pagoda collapsed and was split into pieces by this sword. This sword has an extremely strong space-time trajectory. It's not something that this kid can execute. Old Shun's expression changed slightly, and he immediately transmitted his voice to everyone. Everyone, please help me stabilize this level of space. After this, the World Pagoda will definitely reward you greatly. Otherwise, if the middle level of the World Pagoda collapses, it will be extremely troublesome. Tens of thousands of sages and various sects looked at each other. They couldn't care less about anything else. They activated their saint power and poured it into the broken space from all directions, stabilizing the 4th level that was about to collapse. However, Old Shun, Ying Taotian, and the others were more worried about Lin Shun and Bairuan. The space on the 4th level was now split into 5 parts, and each part was covered by snow-white sword light. The 4 islands were the 4 parts, and the central island was the 5th part. Now, only Lin Shun, Bairuan, and Lin Xingqian were left on the central island. Oh no, the Divine Lady is trapped. The old woman from the Divine Flame Palace tried to tear the space on the central island, but she couldn't cross the area covered by the white sword light. Her expression changed slightly. While the other 7th-rank sect elders were attacking the seals on the 4 islands, Ying Taotian stepped out, his handsome face solemn. My friend from the Divine Flame Palace, Senior Shun, let's attack together. We can't hold back, or else the people inside will be in danger. Count me in as well. Lin Shen's death is also a loss to us. The beautiful woman in the peach dress walked over gracefully. Thank you for your trouble. Old Shen cupped his fists. It would take some time for him to break the white sword light alone. If the 4 strongest people here work together, they might be able to break the sword-intense obstruction in the shortest time possible. However, the premise was that Lin Shun and Bairuoyan had to hold on until they broke the space seal. Otherwise, if anything happened to Bairuoyan, the Divine Flame Palace would also be shaken, and the Boundary Tower would have to take more responsibility. The 4 of them each stood on one side, and the saint acupoints in their bodies gathered endless saint power. They pushed out and bombarded the white sword light like a silver waterfall. Boom, boom, boom. The entire 4th level of the Boundary Tower shook violently. In the space on the central island, Lin Xingqian's mouth was bleeding. It seems that it's too early to use the 5 Emperor's sword Qi. Moreover, I'm injured. However, it shouldn't be a problem to take down this person and take back the Scarlet Divine Damask. On the other side, Lin Shun and Bairuoyan looked at each other and smiled. Miraculously, they didn't feel any pressure at all. It was as if they weren't afraid of anything when they were together. Sister Ruoyan, How long has it been since we worked together? Lin Chen held the fairy's hand and chuckled. Bai Ruoyan smiled. The last time we worked together was when we were dealing with the fake god family. Then let's do something even crazier this time. As Lin Chen laughed heartily, a golden light flashed, and the battle god's armor appeared out of thin air. He put it on. Chapter 1264. This is bad. Although Lin Chen is amazing, he's still far from being able to fight that monster. What should we do? Elder Shun and the rest won't be able to break through this sword aura anytime soon. The elders of the various ranks 6 sects were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They had to break through the sword aura's shackles and protect their disciples at the same time. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light shot into the sky. It illuminated the entire 4th level of the realm tower. This is... Oh my god, is that Lin Shun? He still has a trump card. All the sages were shocked. Host is using the Ares right vambrace. The Ares set's increase in strength depends on the number of parts and the recovery rate. Buzz. Golden light illuminated the sky, and an invincible aura swept through the entire space. Lin Chen's entire body was emitting golden light. His silver robe billowed, and his eyes were like gold. The intense golden light enshrouded his entire body. His flesh, blood, bones, and even a strand of hair had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. Lin Chen's pure strength surged all the way. It was unstoppable as it rushed into the sky and pierced through the 9 heavens. 20 billion dragon power points, 50 billion dragon power points, 100 billion dragon power points, 200 billion dragon power points, 500 billion dragon power points, 700 billion dragon power points, 900 billion dragon power points. Golden light shone as countless golden auras entered Lin Chen's vambrace. It was as if a deity had awakened, and its strength shook the 9 heavens. It was as if the god of war had come to life. It was still rising. Lin Chen's pure strength broke through the trillion dragon power points. 1100 billion dragon power points. 3 billion dragon power points. Rumble, rumble. The entire 4th level of the realm tower was rumbling and trembling as if it could not withstand this power. All the sages on the 4 islands were dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, they were still worried about how Lin Shun would hold on until Elder Shun came to save them. Now, it was not certain who would win. Lin Xingchen was finally moved. A year ago, they had met in a hurried battle. He clearly remembered the wrist guard worn by Lin Shun. Now, it had actually turned into a pair of vambraces. Although I've been injured for the past year, it's not like I haven't made any progress. I've grown from a puny battle emperor to a saint realm expert in just 1 year. If I don't kill you today, you'll become a huge threat in the future. Lin Xingchen's expression turned serious, a rare sight. With a flick of his sword, he slashed horizontally at Lin Shun. In that instant, the sky darkened. An array of starlight illuminated Lin Shun. Bang! With a flash of golden radiance, heaven and earth were overturned, and the sword radiance was completely shattered. What? Lin Xingchen's eyes narrowed. His attack was powerful enough to kill any peak 5th heaven true saint. How could he break it so easily? Lin Xingchen's 5-colored sword, Qi, surged once again. The moment the sword light exploded, Lin Chen slowly stepped out. All the sages who were paying attention to the battle were stunned. His entire body was shrouded in golden radiance, and streaks of golden light danced wildly in the air like a dragon shadow. His eyes were like the stars in the forest, shining brilliantly. With a peerless beauty by his side, golden radiance shone in all directions. An epic painting unfurled slowly, and it was as if the might of the god of war was unstoppable. It was as if no one in the universe could shake his sharpness. Huff! Lin Chen's eyes narrowed, and he exhaled lightly. Huff! Crack! Crack! Bang! Bang! His breath was like a tornado, and the space within a few thousand miles of the central island was destroyed beyond recognition. Countless spatial fragments scattered everywhere. Hiss! The sages felt their scalps go numb. It was just a casual exhale, but it was like an apocalyptic storm that swept across the space, shattering the crystal walls of the space. Just how strong was Lin Shan now? This power is around 1.5 trillion dragon power points, which is also the limit of the god of war's right arm now. Lin Shan was amazed. He had no doubt that he could control the sun, moon, and stars with just a wave of his hand. So we've all underestimated him. That's too scary. I thought that the Holy Dragon was his final trump card. I didn't expect him to still have something up his sleeve. Even if all the monsters here attack him together, they won't be a match for him, let alone him fighting 1 against 3. How can there be such an unreasonable guy in this world? All the monsters felt defeated for the first time. They knew that they weren't inferior to anyone in this world, but when they saw the two monsters, Lin Shan and Lin Xingqian, today, they suddenly felt that they were so far away from them. This distance was a gap of a lifetime. As expected of the man that the goddess has taken a fancy to, he's indeed a genius. In time, he might even rule over the Divine Flame Palace. The old woman from the Divine Flame Palace, who was protecting Byron, was elated. Is it so troublesome? It's a little tricky. But if this kid really has the Scarlet God's Damask, then it's all worth it. Lin Xingqian's 5-colored sword aura split into a white sword projection and merged into his sword. His face became even paler. I let you escape last time. This time, I won't let you off so easily. Lin Shan's body moved, and he activated his trillion dragon power to perform a spatial jump. White Emperor's sword aura, heaven worshipping slash. Lin Xingqian's sword slashed horizontally, and the white sword aura split the entire central island. I'll reward you with a punch. Lin Shan raised his hand and threw a punch toward the sky. The golden divine glow of the god of war's vambrace suddenly intensified, and it struck the place where the sword aura was the brightest. Boom! Bam! The realm tower trembled, and both sides retreated rapidly. Lin Shan and Lin Xingqian vomited blood at the same time. All the saints felt as if the world had been turned upside down, and the 5 planes that had been split-spun several times at high speed. They felt dizzy, and when they saw clearly, their mouths were slightly agape, as if they had seen a ghost. In the space of the central island, there was a huge hole that led to the outside world. The realm tower was actually broken through. Oh my God! Even a 6th heaven true saint might not be able to break through the space outside the realm tower. Are these two still human? All the old experts sucked in a breath of cold air. It was rumored that a 6th heaven true saint had once formed a grudge with the realm tower. He had personally launched a surprise attack on the realm tower, but he had failed to break through the space barrier. Now, it was actually broken by 2 young juniors. At this time, a pure white flame descended from the sky, and it turned into numerous fire bundles that instantly bound Lin Xingqian. All the saints were shocked. It was the Divine Flame Palace's goddess, Bai Ruoyan. Little brother Lin Chun. Bai Ruoyan had used all her strength. When she shouted, Lin Chun leaped into the air, and his body moved like the stars in the sky. His trillion draconic powers crushed open a crack in space. Lin Shan appeared in front of Lin Xingqian in an instant, and his divine battle armor smashed down on Lin Xingqian's head like a giant hammer. Bam! Lin Xingqian broke free from the shackles and pointed his sword at the sky, striking out with it. Clang! Boom! The mountains collapsed, and the sun and moon lost their color. This time, Lin Xingqian made the first move. With a punch, he sent his opponent flying out of the realm pagoda. Walala! Lin Xingqian was injured, and he dropped a large number of attribute light balls. Lin Shan summoned the Holy Dragon and stored them away. Lin Shan couldn't be bothered to look at what he had obtained. Stepping on a golden light, he charged out of the realm tower. Bai Ruoyan followed closely behind, and the 3 of them rushed out of the realm tower. Lin Shan didn't have the time to help others break through Lin Xingqian's shackles. He was using the divine battle armor, and the power he could use was limited. He had to defeat or kill Lin Xingqian before the set's essence ran out. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, and Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen started fighting again outside the realm tower. Chapter 1265. Outside the World Tower, Ethereal Mountain in the Azure region. Whoosh! Boom! 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 Three figures crossed each other in the sky. Lin Shen's fist collided with Lin Xingchen's, and the golden light from his fist swept across the sky. Lin Xingchen slashed horizontally, and the energy from his sword collided with Lin Shen's wrist. Clang! 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 Bang! Lin Shen's fist didn't connect, and he was struck by Lin Xingchen's sword instead. Luckily, he had the war god's vambrace to protect him. Otherwise, that sword would have torn him apart. In the collision just now, his holy power has a kind of suppression that saints at the sacred boundary don't have. However, it hasn't evolved yet. Lin Shun was sent crashing to the ground. Before he lost consciousness, he quickly regained consciousness. Lin Shun vaguely knew that the fourth heaven of the Saint Realm was the Cavern Expansion Realm. Above the Cavern Expansion Realm was the Condensation Realm. He could not completely see through Lin Xingchen's cultivation, but he could vaguely estimate that he had yet to reach the Transformation Realm. However, the level of his swordsmanship was ridiculously high, and each of his swordsmanship seemed to have transcended the mortal realm. In other words, his true cultivation probably hadn't reached the Cavern Expansion Realm yet. F***CK. How terrifying is this fellow? How can a Cavern Expansion Realm cultivator take on Brother Chen's 1.5 trillion dragon energy fist? You're the one with the system, right? The corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched. 1.5 trillion dragon energy was enough to crush even a fifth heaven saint realm cultivator. How could he not be able to do anything to Lin Xingchen? Lin Chen didn't care about anything else, and he leaped into the air again. No matter what this Lin Xingchen's background was, he was going to fight him to the end. Holy flames refining the heavens. White flames filled the sky and surrounded Lin Xingchen like an inferno. Bai Ruoyan pointed her finger, and the eternal holy flames shot out from the inferno towards Lin Xingchen. Irritating thing, scram. Lin Xingchen waved his sword, and three streaks of white light cut through the inferno. The last one was aimed at Bai Ruoyan. Bai Ruoyan's expression turned serious. Just as she was about to bite her tongue to activate her secret art, a golden holy fist wind blew her sword apart. Let's see how many swords you can use. With a stomp of his foot, Lin Shen tore through the void and appeared above Lin Xingchen's head in a flash, punching out furiously. Boom! That punch contained trillions of dragon power and penetrated through the entire earth vein of Ethereal Mountain, causing the world to flip upside down. Just the aftershock alone was enough to shatter thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. Lin Xingchen snorted coldly. His sword spun like a roulette, and a dazzling white sword chi surged outwards to meet the golden divine radiance head-on. Clang! Bang! Lin Xingchen was sent flying back several hundred kilometers, and Lin Shun followed up with another attack. He elbowed Lin Xingchen, and with a burst of pure strength, he forced Lin Xingchen's white sword chi to rise sharply, and the sword chi slashed horizontally at the war god's vambrace. Clang! Bang! The void shattered. Lin Shun was forced back by the sword, and his arm went numb. Damn it! What the hell is that sword of his? It doesn't look like a divine sword, and it's even connected to his arm. Lin Shen took a deep breath and used his dragon power to launch a surprise attack on Lin Xingchen, not giving him a chance to catch his breath at all. He attacked continuously, and the war god's vambrace on his right arm struck at Lin Xingchen's chest and abdomen at a close distance. His punches rained down on Lin Xingchen, causing endless spatial cracks to appear in the sky. It was a shocking sight. Lin Xingchen blocked 3 consecutive attacks, horizontally, diagonally, vertically. His reaction was equally fast. After blocking Lin Chen's punches, he retreated while stabbing his sword at Lin Chen. Bang! 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 The two of them fought from Ethereal Mountain all the way to Azure Dragon Mountain range. Everywhere they passed, hundreds of thousands of kilometers were reduced to rubble, and everything was destroyed. Although Lin Chen's pure strength could shake the current Lin Xingqian, he could only fight with his right hand. Moreover, whenever Lin Xingqian attacked, he had to use the war God's Vambrace to block it. 1. 5 trillion dragon power could block the aftershocks of his sword aura, but could not block the sharpness of his sword aura. Against Lin Chun, all of Lin Chen's moves were too weak and immature, be it runes, talents, awakened skills, mental cultivation methods, cultivation, or anything else. They could not even interfere with him. It was like a child brandishing a sword in front of an adult. The only thing he could rely on was the war god's Vambrace. Whenever Lin Xingqian attacked at close range, Lin Chun had to use the war god's Vambrace to block it. If he made a single mistake, he would be instantly sliced into pieces by the sword aura. Lin Chen's spiritual senses were stimulated to the extreme. Coupled with his long-term consumption of the astral travel fruit and his spiritual awakening, his spiritual senses were much faster than those of the same level. Lin Chen did not miss out on every detail of how Lin Xingqian held his sword, swung it, and attacked. He countered every move, using his fist to block the sword and using his fist to block the sword. If this continues, I might not be able to outlast him. I have to find an opportunity to increase the strength of the war god's Vambrace by another level. However, there's only one chance. I don't have much of the essence of my set left. Lin Chen grew fiercer as he fought. Occasionally, attribute light balls would fall from Lin Xingqian and enter his body, but he was completely unaware of it. Boom! Crack! A loud explosion rang out from Lin Chen's body. The sound of an eggshell cracking rang out, and an even more resplendent hexagonal star appeared in his body. Lin Chun had actually exploded his acupoints at this critical juncture. He had broken through the bottleneck and stepped into the early third heaven-true saint realm. What was even more ridiculous was that he did not even realize it himself. He was completely immersed in the battle. When he saw that Lin Chun had broken through again, the usually cold and aloof Lin Xingqian, who had never been able to cause a ripple in his heart, suddenly felt a sense of frustration. In the past, other than that woman from the Devilman race, he had never even looked at the opponents he had killed. Only this battle made him feel more and more frustrated. He had originally thought that he could take down Lin Chun with 100% certainty. He had used most of his strength to block old Shun and the others from the World Tower. How could he still erupt with such strength? At this time, Lin Chen's attack changed. He circulated his dragon force and retreated. Little brother Lin Chun, attack his lower body. I'll cover you. While Bai Ruoyan was transmitting her voice, the sky was shaken open with a rumbling sound. Waves of fire surged and raging flames engulfed the firmament. The gigantic palm, that was several 100,000 feet tall, burned with pure white flames, burning the 9 heavens and the sky, burning the void within 10,000 miles into a sea of fire. 9-layered, sky-burning palm. The Divine Flame Palace's orange-rank secret art, 9-layered as one. It was comparable to a mid-orange rank battle technique. Moreover, this move was executed by Ruoyan personally. The eternal Holy Fire and Divine Flame Heart Sutras might were displayed, and even Lin Xingqian revealed a trace of surprise. This woman's combat strength had exceeded his expectations. White Emperor's 3 swords. The sword in Lin Xingqian's hand flashed with 5-colored sword aura, and he slashed 3 times. A triangular white sword mark shot into the sky. Splat! Splat! The sword cut through the 9 heavens, and white flames filled the sky. When it scattered into countless fragments, a golden shadow flashed in front of Lin Xingqian. Feint in the east and attack in the west. You're still far from it. Lin Xingqian reacted quickly. As if he had been prepared, 5-colored sword aura burst out from 2 fingers on his left hand. Using his fingers as a sword, he pierced through Lin Chun in front of him. Lin Chen's figure was defeated, and he turned into starlight and dissipated. No, it's a clone. Lin Xingqian reacted instantly. Although this person's aura was exactly the same as Lin Chen's, and it was difficult to differentiate between the real and the fake, it did not have the power to destroy the sun and moon. It was a fake. It was at this moment that a golden fist smashed down furiously from behind Lin Xingchen. Chapter 1266. Lin Shun made a feint with his doppelganger while using the heavenly invisibility runes to get close to Lin Xingchen's back. Host continues to increase the strength of the Aries Vambrace. Right Vambrace charging. 1. 89% reduced to 1. 25%. Rumble. He directly activated all the power of the Aries Vambrace, expending a large amount of energy to recharge it to the limit of what he could bear. 1. 6 trillion dragon power points. 1. 8 trillion dragon power points. 2 trillion dragon power points. 2 trillion dragon power points. Lin Shen instantly punched out. Space trembled, heaven and earth turned upside down, and time and space seemed to have fallen into chaos. This punch exceeded 2 trillion dragon power points. Before the Golden Fist was fully unleashed, it had already crushed thousands of miles of space. It was like an earth-shattering attack that could destroy heaven and earth as it headed straight for Lin Xingchen. Even though Lin Xingchen was hit by a feint, he did not panic. He quickly placed his sword behind his back, and the 5-colored sword aura flowing through the sword turned from white to blue. 5 the arch sword aura, sword the blue the arch. Azure blue reflected the sky as the azure flowing light appeared like a screen. Just as it blocked Lin Xingchen's back, the Golden Fist struck him. Bang! Rumble. The power that pierced through the sun, moon, and stars struck Lin Xingchen. With a bang, an unprecedented shockwave exploded in the sky. The sky within hundreds of thousands of li was completely shattered. The aftershock of this punch even slightly affected by Royan, and the beauty was sent flying out of the sky. As for Lin Xingchen, with a swoosh, he fell into the mountain range at a speed several hundred times faster than a meteor. Bang! 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 The earth was instantly pierced through like an egg being smashed by a hammer. The entire mountain range within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles collapsed instantly. Cracks that looked like slithering pythons exploded and spread crazily all the way. Dozens of mountains along the way collapsed like tofu. Green Domain, Buddhist city. Everything in this place was silent. Buddhist cultivators who cultivated their nature by studying Buddhism were meditating here. Inside a temple, 2 abbots in yellow robes suddenly opened their eyes, and a holy light flashed in their eyes. They were full of doubts. Strange, there have been no disasters recently. Why would there be an earthquake? Strange, strange. The 2 abbots were just about to move when a terrifying force penetrated through the ground like a dragon. With a bang, the temple collapsed. What happened? Earthquake? It's coming from over there. The direction of the boundary tower? That can't be right. The Rel Pagoda is more than 2 million miles away from us. When the dust settled, Lin Shun was gasping for breath. His dragon power had dropped from 1.5 trillion to 1.2 trillion. Just now, he had used up 6/1000ths of the Aries Vambrace charge. If he used it a few more times, his Aries Vambrace would be close to its limit. At the bottom of the mountain range below, there was a huge pit that was hundreds of thousands of feet wide. It was a ghastly sight, as if it was an ancient ruin. In the end, I still let this bastard activate his defense. Lin Shen looked around. Fortunately, they were in the area guarded by the Realm Pagoda. There were not many forces stationed here, and there was no one within 1,000,000 miles. Otherwise, who knew how many people would be buried with that punch? Bairuoyan appeared in the form of a wisp of smoke. Lin Shun asked worriedly, Sister Oyan, are you all right? I'm fine. His aura hasn't disappeared yet. Let's go back to the realm tower. Bang! At this time, before she could finish speaking, a sword light shot into the sky. Lin Xingchen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His entire body was surrounded by 5-colored sword aura, and his aura was not reduced at all. Very good. This is the first time I've been forced to this extent by a mortal. Lin Shun, you are indeed worth killing. Lin Xingchen was so angry that he laughed. Lin Shun suddenly said, I say, are you crazy? Just because I'm more handsome than you, why are you so determined to kill me? What's your motive for killing me? Lin Xingqian frowned and said, in that tomb of the Sage King, you touched something you shouldn't have. If you hand it over, I can let you go. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat. The tomb of the Sage King? What did he touch in the tomb of the Sage King that he shouldn't have touched? He had escaped death in the tomb of the Sage King, and Little Shadow had only stolen 2 things for him. I only took 2 things from the Clear Sky Sage King's coffin. One is the blue jade rod that can produce the seeds of the plant of providence, and the other is the red silk. Could it be that he came for one of these 2 things? Lin Chun was shocked. With Lin Xingqian's incredible background and combat power, the blue jade rod that could produce the seeds of the plant of providence might not be able to attract him. If that was the case, it was very likely that he came for the red silk. I don't only have 1 red silk. I have a total of 4 red silk. He only knew that I took 1 red silk and went crazy to the realm tower to find me. Damn it, if he knows that I have 4 red silk, I'm afraid he'll fight me to the death. Seeing Lin Chen's expression change in an instant, Lin Xingqian sneered. Looks like you already know. Hand it over, or I'll kill your woman. Your strength has weakened. If we continue fighting, do you think you'll be my match? Lin Xingqian was bluffing Lin Chun. In fact, he was also an arrow at the end of its flight. If he was allowed to recover to his peak state, not to mention Lin Chun, who was wearing the Ares vambrace, even if everyone in the realm tower swarmed him together, they would not be his match. He was just putting up a strong front. Indeed, my strength has been weakened. However, why do you think that I only have 1 trump card? Lin Chen grinned, not afraid of Lin Xingqian at all. You still have a trump card? Lin Xingqian frowned. As the 5-colored sword aura surged, the space distorted. What a monstrous young man. Does he really think that the realm tower does not exist? Old Shun, Ing Taotian, the beautiful lady in the peach blossom dress, and the old lady from the Divine Flame Palace appeared at the same time. They had already broken the bindings and stabilized the realm tower, leaving the tower immediately. You've broken the bindings? Lin Xingqian was slightly surprised. This was more than twice as fast as he had expected. Of course, I have to thank my little shadow. As Lin Chen laughed, a pitch-black dragon shadow returned to Lin Chen's side. It made 2 confident sounds, as if it was asking for credit from Lin Chen. Lin Chen released the Holy Dragon into the Boundary Tower to collect the elemental light balls. At the same time, he also left Little Shadow in the Boundary Tower. Shadow was born in the boundless void. His understanding of space far exceeded that of ordinary living beings. Lin Chen's white monarch sword aura involved the Tao of space-time. Lin Chun took a gamble and left Little Shadow in the Realm Tower to help the powerful beings break the bindings. Fortunately, he made the right bet. Innate shadow, it doesn't seem to be that simple. Lin Xingqian regained his usual calmness. He looked at all the powerful beings surrounding him and sneered. Forget it. I'll leave it with you for a while. If I don't collect it completely, you won't be able to see its secret. You're the first mortal who has angered me. I'll definitely kill you one day. Lin Xingqian waved his sword, and a white light split the void. Lin Xingqian's figure disappeared. Trying to leave? Old Shun grabbed with both hands and activated a spatial seal. However, he realized that he couldn't stop Lin Xingqian from leaving. His sword had opened a spatial passageway that seemed to reach a destination that didn't belong to the sacred boundary. Even Old Shin couldn't cut off his spatial passageway. Ing Taotian waved his palm, but Lin Xingqian had already disappeared. He missed. I can only see the secret after collecting it. It seems that the secret of the 4 pieces of scarlet silk in my hands is quite big. Lin Chun was deep in thought. When he looked down at the huge pit, he saw the attribute light shining inside. He couldn't help but be delighted. Chapter 1267. This young man's background might be beyond our expectations. Ing Taotian fell into deep thought. He had wanted to attack Old Shun and force the other party to stay, but he had hesitated in the end. As a 7th grade sect master, he had to be responsible for his sect. If he provoked this young man who dared to challenge the Boundary Tower alone, the power behind him might be unimaginable. Old Shen wasn't surprised by the actions of the people around him. They weren't even in a cooperative relationship. They were already giving him a lot of face by helping him stabilize the situation. He couldn't force them to deal with this young man. When Old Shun turned to look at Lin Shun, he didn't even have time to ask about his injuries. He raised his eyebrows and said in disbelief, "You actually broke through again?" Although Lin Shun was good at hiding his cultivation, he couldn't hide it from people like Old Shun. Lin Shun didn't know. When he looked inside his body, 21 hexagonal starlight Saint points shone brightly. He revealed an awkward but polite smile. Well, maybe handsome people really don't have any bottlenecks in their cultivation. When they heard this, the beautiful woman in the peach blossom dress and Ing Tao Tian were dumbfounded. Was he still human? Even if he wanted to mess around, there should be a limit. How long had it been since he exploded his acupoints 10 times in the preliminary round? Now, he had advanced to the third heaven true Saint realm. Back in the day, they had occupied a spot on the monstrous geniuses list. It had taken him a few years to break through this bottleneck, but this little fellow had surpassed them in a month. Monster. You're really a monster. Using the word monster to describe you is an understatement. Lin Shun, maybe in the future, you will have the chance to become one of the 100 most terrifying people on the monstrous geniuses list. Ing Tao Tian and the beautiful woman in the peach blossom dress gave Lin Shun an extremely high evaluation. I've never thought of the monstrous geniuses list as my goal. This time, I just want an identity to make it easier for me to do things. Lin Shun smiled casually and turned to charge into the giant pit. The three of them were stunned. On the other side, the old woman from the Divine Flame Palace panicked. "Goddess, you actually removed the seal and used the holy flame?" The old woman was shocked and horrified. She looked at Bairu Oyan with a worried expression. If anything happened to her, the entire Divine Flame Palace would be shaken. "It's fine." Bairu Oyan's pretty face was pale. She shook her head and said, "It's only a temporary release of the seal. Elder need not worry, sigh. It was my negligence." The old woman sighed deeply. "It's not Elder's fault. It's just that I insisted on leaving. Elder, please don't blame yourself." Bairu Oyan said softly. The old woman sighed and did not say anything. She channeled a wisp of saint energy into her palm to help Bairu Oyan circulate her heart technique and regulate her breathing to heal her injuries. This time, Bairu Oyan had secretly left. She had originally thought that she would be able to protect the goddess. Not to mention strength. Just the name of the Divine Flame Palace was enough to intimidate countless people. Yet, the one he met was Lin Xingchen, a monster that defied common sense. He did not care about anyone's face. "Goddess, don't blame this old woman for talking too much. I have already sent a message to the palace. For your safety," the old woman wanted to say something. Bairu Oyan was stunned. She turned to look at Lin Shun, who had rushed into the huge pit and could not help but feel sad. "Are we leaving again? After this parting, I don't know when we will meet again." Lin Shun took off his Aries vambrace. He did not care about the wave of weakness that surged up his body. He casually swallowed a few long Qingguo and immediately entered the deep pit. His punch of 2 trillion dragon power had smashed the ground into paste. The deep pit was more than 1,000,000 feet deep. Nearby, there were colorful attribute light balls everywhere. Some of them were suspended in the void, dazzling. Every one of them was an extremely high quality. In the center of the huge pit, a pillar of light rose up. The golden light was dazzling. The light was as dense as divine radiance. Within the pillar of light was a golden treasure chest. Golden? It doesn't seem to be a part of the Aries set. Lin Shun grabbed it with his palm. Host has opened a treasure chest with a specific talent attribute. You have received a mid-orange grade passive talent fragment. Extreme God Possession, 4/4. Talent fusion complete. Please check your talent column. Rumble. At this moment, boundless holy light was released from Lin Chen's body. His 21 saint points surged with holy power. The 9 colors were like the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers. The mountain sea prison could not compare to them. In his Tai space, the 21 virtual saint points were like the sun and moon in the sky. His holy power surged by 3 times. This caused Lin Chen's strength to soar all the way. Old Shun and the others were still discussing when they saw this strange phenomenon in the deep pit. They could not help but be stunned. What a terrifying holy power. How can this be the cultivation of a third heaven true saint? How many more secrets does this little guy have? Lin Chen's heart trembled. Mid-orange grade talent? Ever since he had obtained the orange grade talent, only the god slayer that fought against false gods and the heaven-defying that appeared once had reached mid-orange grade. The remaining sun god, absolute life and death, instant shadow, annihilation, and super chaos were all low orange grade talents. Most importantly, this was a permanent talent. Lin Shun could not wait to open the system. Permanent, mid-orange grade passive talent, supreme god possession. Talent effect. The host can increase the power of all cultivation techniques, movement techniques, offensive and defensive combat techniques, including mental cultivation techniques, by 300%. Note, this talent is a passive and active talent. If the host consumes talent points to use the Supreme God Possession on a specific combat technique that the host has mastered at this stage, the host will obtain the effect of Supreme God Possession once. Lin Chen's mouth gradually widened. Amazing. Mid-orange grade talent was indeed crazy. Even if Lin Chen did not use this talent, he could increase the power of all his cultivation techniques by 300%. That included his mental cultivation techniques. A 300% increase in his mental cultivation techniques meant that his Tai Sky concealing technique would increase by 3 times. The holy power of the virtual saint points in his Tai space would increase by 3 times. A saint point in the first heaven of the true saint realm was equivalent to 100 million dragon power points. A saint point in the second heaven would be 200 million dragon power points, and a saint point in the third heaven would be 500 million dragon power points. Lin Shun had opened 21 saint points, which meant that he had 5 billion dragon power points. With the support of the Tai space, he had double the number of saint points. His actual cultivation strength was equivalent to 7 billion dragon power points, which was double the strength of an ordinary person. However, the holy power of the virtual saint points in the Tai space had increased by 3 times. It was equivalent to 7 billion dragon power points as a foundation, plus 10. 5 billion dragon power points. 17. 5 billion dragon power points. This number was astronomical for a third heaven true saint realm. This was a power that could only be controlled by a cavern expansion realm cultivator. Supreme God Possession, this talent is too awesome. My Tai Sky concealing technique is not complete because of the lack of the last 2 chapters of the mental cultivation technique. As a result, I can't use the mental cultivation technique strengthening. However, Supreme God Possession does not have this obstacle. It can increase my power by 3 times. Damn, with 3 times the foundation of the mental cultivation technique. The orange cultivation technique will also increase by 3 times. That's 6 times the total. Lin Chen's face was filled with infatuation as he laughed maniacally at the sky. I really have to thank your entire family, Lin Xingchen. Ha ha ha. Every increase in the orange cultivation technique was a crucial transformation. Currently, Lin Chen's mental cultivation technique had increased by 3 times, and all his combat techniques had increased by 6 times. What did this mean? This meant that he was in a state that was even crazier than the ultimate moment. Chapter 1268. With this foundation, Lin Chen's strength would soar to the heavens the moment he stepped into the expanded cavern realm. If it was in the past, Lin Chen would have wanted to reach new heights. However, after the battle with Lin Xingchen, Lin Chen's mentality had changed. Lin Xingchen's cultivation wasn't high, but his strength was monstrous. His ability to fight against those of a higher realm was ridiculous. From the looks of it, Lin Xingchen didn't seem like he was from the same world. His background might not be as simple as the Demon Geniuses list. After experiencing it personally, Lin Shan knew how difficult it was to fight against those of a higher realm in the true Saint realm. When he was in the Combat Emperor realm, he could fight against a 7th-level Combat Emperor. However, in the true Saint realm, no matter how heaven-defying his orange tier talent was, he was only in the 2nd Heaven True Saint realm. He could barely fight against 4th or 5th Heaven True Saints. He had to use his trump card, the War God Bracers. Increasing my strength is a must. Next, I have to collect more set essences at all costs to forge the War God armor. Also, I have to head to the Holy Prison to find the 4th part of the mental cultivation technique and the location of the 9 Karma Nail. Lin Shan sighed. Luo Yao had warned him that before he reached the 6th Heaven True Saint realm, he shouldn't go near the green region's Eye of the Storm. Perhaps, with the extreme god's possession as a foundation, Lin Shan could enter the Holy Prison a step earlier. Strength. I'm still not strong enough. After his excitement, Lin Shan calmed down. With a flash, he collected all the attribute light balls that Lin Xingchen had dropped. Obtained 310,000 water-type energy, 10 billion high-grade battle chi essences, 1 million high-grade cultivation technique essences, 690,000 talent points, 650,000 Heaven's Path points, 200 million enhancement points, 200,000 spiritual power, 220,000 set essences. What surprised Lin Shan was that the quality of each attribute light ball was terrifyingly high. Lin Shan licked his lips. Indeed, wealth comes from danger. Lin Xingchen's attribute points are enough for me to improve by leaps and bounds. If I can kill him, Lin Shan shook his head and laughed. He felt that he was thinking too much. In front of Lin Xingchen, it would be good if he could protect himself. Right? I have a lot of money now, so why don't I exchange it for a large amount of cultivation resources? This thought struck Lin Shan like a clap of thunder. On the 4th floor of the Realm Tower, Lin Shan and Bai Ruoyan returned under the protection of Old Shun and the others. Han Yiji flew over and asked worriedly, "Class Rep, how are you?" The beautiful woman's bright, red hair fluttered in the wind. Jian Qingsheng flew over in a flash of sword light. Seeing that Lin Shan was unharmed, he heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he could not help but complain. "You were too reckless. Why did you take the initiative to fight him? Wouldn't it have been better to hold on in the Boundary Tower until the seniors broke the restriction formation? Several seniors from my sword domain are planning to help." Lin Shan chuckled. "Why? Are you worried about me?" "Ahem. Of course, without an opponent like you, wouldn't I lose my target?" Jian Qingchang coughed softly, the tips of his delicate ears turning red. She did not realize that her clumsy excuse had caused the experts from the sword domain behind her to cover their mouths and snicker. They had never seen Jian Qingchang, who had always been cold and obsessed with swordsmanship, show such an expression. Bai Ruoyan looked at Lin Shan with a faint smile and said telepathically, "You tricked another girl." Lin Shan coughed softly. "It's none of my business. I'm very innocent." "Really? Is it the kind of innocence that makes your sister use her mouth when your wound is swollen?" Lin Shan coughed. "Ahem." Han Yiji said, "Class Rep, is your throat not good? If your throat is not good, you can drink lava. It's very effective." Lin Shan said, "Brat, whose side are you on? Don't think that I won't dare to mess with you just because you're good-looking. I'm deeply sorry and regretful that this happened in the Realm Tower. The elders have unanimously decided to compensate all the forces. The Realm Tower will bear all the losses of the injured. In addition, all the chambers of commerce will be compensated by increasing their business time in the Realm Tower by 10 years. Elder Shun was on the 4th floor and personally announced the compensation. His magnanimity made all the forces give him a thumbs up. Letting the Chamber of Commerce was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. A large number of experts and human traffic meant abundant resources and great circulation. In the past, a large number of saints and experts would gather at the candidates' meeting for the 10-year Holy War. This time, it was far more than the previous ones. Because the official members of the Genius List were also present, there were even more experts paying attention to it. The chambers of commerce were stationed here, and their daily profits were astronomical. Those who could enter the realm tower had extraordinary cultivation and foundation. As long as they succeeded in trading with an expert, it was better than trading with ordinary saints dozens of times in the outside world. Now, that Elder Shun had allowed the Chamber of Commerce to be extended for 10 years until the next candidate's meeting. It was killing two birds with one stone. It could prevent the Realm Tower from paying too much compensation and consuming too many resources, and it could let the merchants continue to pay taxes to replenish the Realm Tower's foundation. In a pavilion on the 8th floor of the Realm Tower. Sister Ruoyan, are you leaving so soon? Lin Chen hugged Bai Ruoyan tightly. Bai Ruoyan caressed Lin Chen's face and smiled sweetly. Yes, I will wait for you. Wait for my little thief to come to the Divine Flame Palace to pick me up and leave. Lin Chen frowned and said, Can I pick you up now? Bai Ruoyan shook her head. Before I completely control the eternal sacred fire and the inherited heavenly fire of the Divine Flame Palace, I won't have much time to act. Lin Chen said fiercely. Then I will snatch you over. Then you will have to face people stronger than the elder outside. Maybe there will be hundreds or thousands of them. Lin Chen's mouth twitched slightly. Hundreds? That old lady was already close to Elder Shin's level, and there were hundreds of people stronger than her in the Divine Flame Palace. How terrifying was the Divine Flame Palace? Then, I'll marry her officially, right? The Divine Flame Palace's written conditions state that the marriage proposal must be from an 8th grade sect and be in the top 1,000 of the genius list. Also, it is only a marriage proposal, and it may not be approved. Lin Shun, okay, I won't tease you anymore. Bai Ruoyan covered her mouth and chuckled. No conditions can stop us from being together. After I fulfill my promise to the Divine Flame Palace, I will naturally come to find you. Sister Ruoyan. Lin Shin stared straight at the fairy, causing her heart to beat faster and her cheeks to turn red. I want. Bai Ruoyan's cheeks flushed red, and she gritted her teeth. Her slender fingers pressed against Lin Shin's lips as she said, Don't think about it. Goddess, someone from the palace is here. At this moment, the old lady transmitted her voice into the room. Boom! On the 8th level of the Realm Tower, strong winds swept up. When a space cracked open, a palace suddenly descended from the sky. It actually came from afar and moved the entire palace here. Those monstrous geniuses who were injured by Lin Xingqian and were recuperating on the 8th level all looked up at the sky at the same time, and their pupils shrank. There were 8 figures standing in front of the palace. There were men and women among the 8, and they all had the supreme aura of a natural-born saint. Once they appeared, it was as if they occupied the whole world and became the center of it. They were the peerless and invincible geniuses from the Divine Flame Palace. Chapter 1269. We came too late. Goddess, please forgive us. The 8 people in front of the palace knelt on one knee as if they were superior to others. The leader of the group was a young man in snow-white armor. His brows were as sharp as swords, and his face was fair. His nose bridge was high, and he looked like a king overlooking all living things. His eyes were filled with heavenly fire, and his aura suppressed everyone. Even the monstrous geniuses on the monstrous geniuses list felt a suffocating pressure when they looked at him from afar. 18 elders floated out from the palace. Each of them had a powerful aura, second only to the old woman who was protecting Bai Ruoyan. However, in the next moment, when a young man in snow-white armor saw a silver-robed young man walking out with Bai Ruoyan, he flew into a rage. Impudent! Where did this ant come from? How dare he be disrespectful to the goddess of the Divine Flame Palace? Die! The young man in snow-white armor stood up and flicked his finger. A white light that was as sharp as a needle tore through space. This time, the power wasn't great, but it was extremely terrifying. It tore through space and turned it into a vacuum. It was aimed at Lin Shun and wouldn't hurt Bai Ruoyan in the slightest. Bang! Bai Ruoyan waved her sleeves and shattered the white light. She scolded coldly. How dare you? Feng Tianxue, what are you trying to do? Feng Tianxue clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Goddess, you're a noble and extraordinary person. How can you let such a filthy mortal taint your divine body? Taint your grandmother's 18 generations of ancestors? Why are you pretending to be a geoduck? Do you believe that I won't force you to dance at your ancestral tombs in 2 days? Lin Shen stepped out and blocked by Ruoyan's path. His cold smile was filled with coldness. He was already unhappy that Bai Ruoyan had been summoned back in such a hurry. She was even targeted by these bastards. If he didn't get angry, would they think that he was a pushover? Heh, a third heaven true, Saint Realm mortal? Feng Tianxue sneered condescendingly. Even the 4 young men behind him revealed mocking and disdainful expressions. Do you know what the third heaven true, Saint Realm means in the Divine Flame Palace? Feng Tianxue flicked his fingernails and said condescendingly, the old monk who sweeps the floor in my palace is at least at the 4th heaven true Saint Realm. A 3rd heaven true Saint Realm expert can only be a guard dog at most. Someone like you can't even compare to a dog. Now, kneel down and commit suicide, and you can leave your corpse intact. He was arrogant and extraordinary, as if he was born to be a 9th-ranked expert. He took it for granted that he would speak an extra word to others, as if he was showing mercy. At this moment, so what if you're a 3rd heaven true saint? Bai Ruoyan, on the other hand, pulled Lin Shen behind her. The way these 2 people protected each other was simply enviable to the onlookers. Bai Ruoyan indifferently said to Feng Tianxue, little brother Lin Shen is not even 23 years old. May I ask what you, Feng Tianxue, were when you were 23 years old? What the hell was that? The geniuses from the Divine Flame Palace were stunned. The people on the monster genius list were also stunned. This was the first time they had heard a celestial immortal curse someone. 23 third heaven true saints. The geniuses behind Feng Tianxue were stunned. Indeed, they hadn't even reached the saint realm at the age of 23. After reaching the saint realm, one's appearance would age very slowly. Almost all the geniuses didn't care much about these few decades. Even when they first saw Lin Shen, they subconsciously thought that they were of the same age. 23 third heaven true saints? Lin Shen? You're Lin Shen? Feng Tianxue's expression froze. He had heard of this name a few times in the Divine Flame Palace. When he reached the Saint Realm, he had consecutively exploded 9 meridians. He could indeed be called a heaven-sent, monstrous genius. He's that Lin Shen? Looking at him like this, he's indeed very handsome. We're here to pick up Senior Sister Roy. Why are you joining in the fun? The few devastatingly beautiful women from the Divine Flame Palace had different styles and looked at Lin Shen curiously. This kid is Lin Shen, and he's a seedling. The 18 elders all sized up Lin Shen. Lin Shen pulled Bai Ruoyan behind him and laughed wildly. Sister Ruoyan, you don't have to waste time with these people. I have a method that works 100% of the time to deal with this kind of person. That is to beat him until he's convinced. Ha ha ha! Feng Tianxue raised his head and laughed loudly, as though he had heard an unprecedented joke. Potential is potential. Strength is strength. You have to survive to become an expert. You're just a 3rd heaven true saint. How dare you challenge me? Are you courting death? Courting death. Lin Shen smiled indifferently. In a flash of golden light, the battle god's bracers appeared. Seeing him take out the golden bracers, all the monstrous geniuses who were watching from afar felt their scalps go numb. Rumble. Bang. 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 The windowsill was blasted away, and the door shattered. The 8th floor of the VIP island was in chaos. It went from being quiet and elegant to being noisy in the blink of an eye. Many of the monstrous geniuses who were lying on their sick beds and were planning to scam the World Tower for compensation instantly jumped up from their beds. It was as though they had taken an aphrodisiac, and they were full of energy as they ran outside crazily. F*CK, he's here again. F*CK, his grandmother. Let's get away from him quickly. He's a F*King lunatic. Run, run. Lin Shen is going crazy. All the monstrous geniuses fled as though they had seen a ghost. Huh. Why are the people on a monstrous geniuses list so cowardly recently? The people from the Divine Flame Palace couldn't help but laugh as though they were watching a bunch of clowns. They didn't know that the people on the monstrous geniuses list were the ones looking at the people from the Divine Flame Palace. Not running? F***CK. They had clearly seen Lin Shun and the freak who had flipped them over with a single sword strike. Just one punch from him would be able to pierce through the world tower. If they didn't run now, wouldn't they be courting death? Were they tired of living? Not to mention that Lin Shun was a lunatic. When he went crazy, he even dared to kill the people on the monstrous geniuses list. If they stayed in the same plane as him, even 10 lives wouldn't be enough if he went crazy. Lin Shun, don't, please don't. The old woman hurriedly stood in front of Lin Shun to stop him. There were still her disciples in the palace. If Lin Shun punched them, would she still be able to stay in the palace? Ha ha! Guardian Elder, you making a fuss over nothing. Young people don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Let him suffer a little. This little guy probably had a smooth sailing life in the outside world. Let him see the foundation of our Divine Flame Palace and know how big the world is. Don't worry, Guardian Elder. Since it's that Lin Shun kid, no matter how bad it is, we'll know what to do. If there's any problem, I'll protect him. Isn't it good to let him suffer a painful lesson? When the 18 elders were transmitting their voices, the old woman was flustered and exasperated. She directly scolded them. Suffer? Eat your head, you bunch of old fools. I'm protecting the disciples of the Divine Flame Palace. All the elders were stunned. What was going on with this guardian elder? How old was she? She was still swearing? She didn't have any manners at all. Lin Shun had already put on the Aries vambrace. He patted the old woman's shoulder and said with a smile, Old senior, the wind is strong. You should move back a little. Let me reason with them. Chapter 1270. On the 7th floor of the Boundary Tower, in a secret room, Old Shun rubbed his temples. He had a headache. Have you calculated the losses? How much do you expect? Old Shun asked an amiable-looking fat elder. The fat elder shook his head. Even if it's for business, it's still a huge loss. The most important thing is to repair the Boundary Tower. Lin Shun smashed the 9 mystic meteoric iron that the Tower Master found with great difficulty with one punch. Old Shun held his forehead. That kid's punch had cost him so much. It's fine if we don't have to compensate those on the monster ranking. The rest is enough to fill the gap. But those on the monster ranking are obviously trying to cheat us. Many of them are pretending to be paralyzed in bed. I don't know what to do now. The fat elder sighed. Although it's unjust, they did get injured in the Boundary Tower. According to the rules of the 36 regions, the Boundary Tower should be responsible. If the compensation is too poor, we won't be able to take it. In the past, the geniuses on the monster ranking would not be interested in the treasures of other forces. But the Boundary Tower was different. It had many treasures. Since they had a legitimate reason to ask for compensation, they would not let go of this opportunity. Although not all injured geniuses did so, at least 80 of them chose this method. They decided to take advantage of the Boundary Tower. Just as Old Shun was vexed, rumble, at this moment, the 7th floor shook. Old Shun could not help but frown. What was going on? Old Shun and the fat elder flashed. When they left the secret room, they saw the geniuses on the 7th floor as if they were fleeing. When the fat old man saw the freaks using all sorts of movement techniques to jump up and down, they were full of vigor. They did not look like they were paralyzed at all. He could not help but open his mouth slightly. That's it? Still injured? The fat elder was speechless. Not good. Old Shun, Lin Shun is about to fight with the Divine Flame Palace. The two geniuses saw that Old Shun seemed to have found his backbone and quickly shouted. Old Shun was stunned. Fight with the Divine Flame Palace? Did the Divine Flame Palace come to pick them up? Old Shun couldn't help but ask via voice transmission when he saw these monstrous geniuses fleeing. Everyone about the compensation, the monstrous geniuses asked in surprise. No need. This young master suddenly realized that Miley Exian Palace is pretty good. So I won't disturb the Realm Pagoda? This young master suddenly feels that the bottleneck has loosened, so I will return first. Let's forget about the treatment and compensation. Goodbye. I suddenly miss my beautiful concubine. My injuries are no longer serious. The power of love is truly great. There's no need for any compensation. I hope that Senior Shun can quickly activate the spatial teleportation and let us leave. All the monstrous geniuses found excuses to excuse themselves. What a joke. If it weren't for Lin Shun, they could still pretend to be injured and ask for a large sum of compensation. However, Lin Shun had already gone crazy here. He could turn the sky and earth upside down at any moment. Who knew when he would tear down the 8th floor? If he fought all the way down, he might even lose his life. Compensation, my ass. In their eyes, the realm pagoda was hell. With a madman like Lin Shun around, escape was the best of the 36 stratagems. Old Shun laughed involuntarily. He clenched his fist and opened a spatial vortex. Everyone, this old man has already opened a spatial tunnel to the 2nd floor. You can leave first. All the monstrous geniuses were relieved of a heavy burden, and they quickly fled. Old Shun's figure flashed, and he shot towards the 8th floor. On the 8th floor, in front of the floating palace, the old woman from the Divine Flame Palace was pulled to the side by Lin Shun. Little brother Lin Shun. Bai Ruoyan held the young man's hand and said gently, "Be gentle. It'll be troublesome if they die." Sister Ruoyan smiled, and her beauty was unparalleled. Lin Shuai had a serious expression on his face as he said, "All right, I will use less than 30% of my strength and barely spare their worthless lives." Everyone from the Divine Flame Palace. Less than 30% of his strength? Spare their dog lives? A third heaven true saint was telling them that he would only use 30% of his strength? Are you crazy, or are we crazy? One of the geniuses from the Divine Flame Palace stepped forward and asked mockingly, "Little brother Lin, what kind of wine did you drink last night? Since you're so drunk, why don't you introduce us?" Sigh. An elder heaved a heavy sigh. Youngsters nowadays really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Tianxue, teach him a lesson. One move. Feng Tianxue stretched out a finger and said arrogantly, "I only need one move to make you hover between life and death." Lin Shen also stretched out a finger and grinned. "One punch. I only need one punch to make you howl like a mad dog." "Wait a minute." Old Shun's voice rang out. He led a group of elders from the Boundary Tower and flew to the middle of both sides. "Everyone, we can't fight this battle." Old Shun said seriously, "My Boundary Tower is severely damaged, and the pressure has increased. If you fight here and damage it again, my Boundary Tower won't be able to bear it." As soon as he said that, the people from the Divine Flame Palace were dissatisfied. Compensation for damage? Who are you looking down on? Two geniuses from the Divine Flame Palace stood out. Facing an expert like Old Shun, they didn't put him in their eyes at all. Feng Tianxue said indifferently, "Old mister, if there's any damage to the Boundary Tower, my Divine Flame Palace will bear all the responsibility." "You?" The old woman was anxious. "I agree. A third heaven true saint dares to look down on my Divine Flame Palace. This is unforgivable. You people from the Boundary Tower, stand aside." An old man holding a horsetail whisk said indifferently. His eyes were like swords as he looked at Lin Shun. "Young people like you are very annoying. If I met you when I was young, I would definitely break your bones and drag you to the Divine Flame Palace to kneel and be punished for 10,000 years. Lin Shun could not be bothered with this noisy old fellow. He smiled and said, "Old Shun, since they are willing to clean up the mess, why don't you just sit by the side and drink some tea? What's wrong with that? I believe the words of the Divine Flame Palace. Since that's the case, I'm not afraid even if you destroy the Boundary Tower. Go ahead." Old Shin flicked his sleeves and said indifferently. He led the elders from the Boundary Tower to the side. Rumble. 10,000 layers of sun flames illuminated heaven and earth. Feng Tianxue walked slowly in the air. His snow armor shone brightly with 21 odd crystals shining like stars. He was like a king of a generation, ruling the world. The other freaks from the Divine Flame Palace immediately retreated 1,000 miles away. Feng Tianquo's power was too strong. He held the sacred sun flame in his left hand and the chill in his right-hand sword. It was as if he was controlling the icy heart-frozen hell. 9 layers of ice wheels above his head and a blazing sun flame behind him. His eyes emitted a world of ice and fire, as if he was the ruler of the world. Feng Tianquo, currently ranked 8940 on the Demon Genius list. He has broken through to the early stage of the 5th Heaven True Saint realm. From the saint power fluctuations of his saint points, each of his saint points has expanded to more than 21 times. One of the elders exclaimed in surprise. Even a casual attack from this kid has a destructive power of 140 billion to 160 billion dragon power. The elders looked at each other. Although they were unhappy with the attitude of the Divine Flame Palace, such combat power was truly rare. Chapter 1271. How many saints had cultivated in seclusion for hundreds or even hundreds of eras before reaching the perfect circle of the 5th Heaven True Saint realm? Feng Tianquo was so young and already had such a foundation at the 5th Heaven True Saint realm. When he reached the 6th Heaven True Saint realm in the future, he would definitely be a giant. Old Shen clicked his tongue in wonder. This kid has also perfectly fused the 2 types of extreme ice and extreme yang physiques. He is someone who has been nurtured by the Divine Flame Palace. Perhaps his strength is even stronger than what is shown on the surface. I have to say that this kid is indeed a genius, a monster among monsters. He is even better than this old man when I was in high spirits. If Feng Tianquo was facing a monstrous genius of the same rank, his chances of winning were extremely high. However, his opponent was the one who dared to dance on the Sage King's grave. At this moment, Lin Chun clenched his fist with the Battle God's vambrace as his strength rose. This time, Lin Chun's control was exquisite. When he wore the Battle God's vambrace, his strength rose sharply. However, his aura had yet to be revealed, and his sharpness was restrained. Naturally, Lin Chun couldn't unleash the same pure strength as when he fought with Lin Xingchen. Firstly, his body was overburdened. The amount of strength he could withstand was dependent on the host's Saint Chi cultivation and the strength of the Saint physique. Secondly, his Battle God's vambrace had already consumed a lot of energy. Unless he continued to expend a large amount of energy, he wouldn't be able to unleash the same amount of strength as before. After the previous few times, Lin Chen's control over the Battle God's vambrace had become more and more adept. Unless his strength soared to an extremely high level, the Battle God's aura that could destroy everything would be completely restrained. One move. Feng Tianquo looked down at Lin Chun arrogantly like the sun in the sky. One punch. Lin Chun smiled faintly. He was confident and domineering, and his arrogance overflowed. Boom, boom, boom. Frost rose, snow collapsed, and the Saint Sun turned into a dragon. Feng Tianquo pointed out a finger, and the extreme ice and extreme yang Saint Chi suddenly erupted and converged. Twin dragon, vast sky. Thousands of ice froze 1,000 mountains and converged into an ice dragon. As the yang flame spun, the burning yang flame's dragon roared angrily into the blue dome of heaven. One ice and one sun. 2 10,000 zhang long dragon shadows spun around each other and furiously rushed towards Lin Chun. Lin Shuai stood in front of Bai Ruoyan and sighed. Once upon a time, I had nothing in front of the Divine Flame Palace other than my handsomeness and specialty. But today, I will strike with a heavy punch. This punch is a show of strength to all the bullshit geniuses of your Divine Flame Palace. Boom! Lin Chun punched out. Golden radiance flashed towards the sky, and the wind from his fist was like a furious dragon emerging from the sea. Mountains and rivers turned to ash, and heaven and earth lost their color. Space collapsed into paste. It was as if all the light in the world had been struck by his fist and dimmed. At this moment, All the monstrous geniuses and elders of Divine Flame Palace were horrified. However, it was too late for them to stop him. Wah! Feng Tianxue was horrified. Bang! In a single exchange, the Grand Heaven's double dragon fingers, one ice and one yang, were instantly pierced through and shattered by the glowing golden fist wind. Feng Tianshue's strongest finger could not even slow down the fist wind by a little. The attacks of both sides were not on the same level at all. The glowing golden fist wind was domineering, and it had an invincible aura. After shattering Feng Tianshue's finger, the domineering aura was still present, and it pierced through Feng Tianxue. Feng Tianshue's head tilted up, and he vomited blood. The 5th grade sacred armor on his body, the hell-suppressing mysterious ice armor, shattered like paper. The sacred body that had been nourished by countless heavenly treasures, sacred healing pills, and high-level sacred elixirs, shattered like glass. His bones were all shattered, and his flesh was badly mangled. A sky full of attribute light orbs fell with a crash. Bang! 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 Feng Tianxue was sent flying by the punch. Along the way, he smashed through dozens of mountains on the 8th level of the World Tower, and the ground cracked. It was a shocking sight. The aftershock of the fist wind was earth-shattering, and it even flipped the spatial sacred artifact, the Fire Glass Palace, which the Divine Flame Palace had teleported over, causing the monstrous geniuses of Divine Flame Palace to panic. In the end, it was the 18 elders of Divine Flame Palace who stabilized the Fire Glass Palace and saved Feng Tianxue. What the F***CK is this fist? Where did this brat come from? Is this the power of a 3rd heaven Saint Realm expert? The elders were flustered and exasperated, and they cursed loudly. The elder who wanted Feng Tianxue to teach Lin Chun a lesson previously looked at Feng Tianxue, who was being supported by the other elders. Feng Tianshue's body was badly mangled, and he spat out blood as he fell into a daze for the first time since he became a martial saint. As one of the elders of Divine Flame Palace's Law Protector Hall, he had seen many monstrous geniuses. He had a premonition that Lin Chun would have some secret trump cards that could even allow him to challenge those of a higher cultivation level. However, Feng Tianxue was a 5th heaven true saint. Furthermore, his strength was far beyond that of an ordinary 5th heaven true saint. Even if he could challenge someone of a higher cultivation level, it shouldn't be like this. This was completely beyond common sense. Phew. Recently, I've been feeling uncomfortable. That punch made my entire body feel sore. Lin Chun heaved a sigh of relief. Even though Lin Chen's body was close to the limit, and it was difficult for him to unleash a trillion dragon force, after obtaining the extreme god possession talent, the power of his greater one saint acupuncture point had increased exponentially. It was easy for him to unleash a total of 500 billion dragon force. The few ladies from Divine Flame Palace were shocked and trembling. The 4 monstrous geniuses who were previously unexcelled felt their scalps go numb, and they looked at Lin Chun as though they had seen a monster. The corners of their mouths were trembling. Yeah, the old female protector of the Divine Flame Palace sighed deeply. Just as the elders from Divine Flame Palace were about to explode in anger, Old Shin stood in front of them. Everyone, do the words you just said still count? The Divine Flame Palace will bear all the losses of the World Tower. Furthermore, both of you have only exchanged one move. Are you going back on your words? Old Shin said indifferently. The elders were so angry that their veins were popping out. At this time, clap, 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 Lin Shin clapped his hands as he stepped into the air and walked to Old Shun's side. Amazing, too amazing. At this moment, my admiration for Zhu Wei is like a torrential river, continuous and unending, like the overflowing Yellow River, unable to be stopped once it starts. Lin Shun gave a thumbs up to all the people from Divine Flame Palace with a serious face. As expected of the big shots of the Divine Flame Palace, I, Lin Fan, have traversed the holy world from north to south. I've touched all kinds of flowers and seen all kinds of weirdos. I've seen all kinds of free prostitutes who don't pay. I've seen people who are so handsome that they get chopped up. I've seen people who are too ugly to subscribe, but I've never seen people like you who pay to be beaten. I have lost. I am willing to call you the sexy divine flame and pay to be beaten online. Puffed. Even someone like Old Shin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Pay to be beaten? How could you say that? Damn you, Lin Shun. You are King cheating. The elder of Divine Flame Palace, who was holding a horsetail whisk, scolded angrily. Feng Tianxue was the illegitimate son he had with the wife of the seventh elder of Divine Flame Palace's punishment hall. As the saying goes, when the son is beaten, the father is hurt. He immediately flew into a rage. Cheating? Why don't you give it a try? Lin Shun sneered. At this time, the power of the god of war Vambrace soared. Lin Shin didn't intend to give in to the Divine Flame Palace. Since these guys were not convinced, he would beat them until they were convinced. Chapter 1272. Golden light circulated. Lin Shin's war god bracers were ready to unleash even more power. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness. The elders of the Divine Flame Palace immediately felt Lin Shin's killing intent. They narrowed their eyes and became vigilant. Why was this brat so hostile to the Divine Flame Palace? Elders, we've already fought and competed. Could it be that you can't afford to lose? Bairuan's man. Can't he even have this little bit of ability? Or do you want him to fall out with you? At this time, the beautiful woman's ethereal voice contained a cold, killing intent. Bairuan came to Lin Shen's side and stared at the people of the Divine Flame Palace. As expected of the man that senior sister Ruoyan likes. He's really mysterious, so powerful. The power of that punch is comparable to some of the head elder senior sisters and senior brothers. More importantly, how old is he? Oh my God! The three devastatingly beautiful women of the Divine Flame Palace were chattering, their faces filled with excitement. The Divine Flame Palace didn't appear in the world all year round. They knew very little about the outside world. To be able to see an existence that was even more extraordinary than them was a very new and exciting thing. This, goddess, we don't dare. The elders knelt down on one knee and broke out in cold sweat. The status of the goddess was not to be underestimated. If they really angered her, she might be fine now, but in the future, she would definitely be in charge. The life and death of ordinary elders was just a matter of words. I told you not to fight, but you insisted on fighting. You even had to pay to be beaten. This old woman feels ashamed standing with you. The old woman's face was full of disgust. The elders were angry, but didn't dare to vent their anger. Damn, who knew that this brat was so abnormal? Little brother Lin Chun. Bairuoyan gently tidied up Lin Chen's clothes. Her brows were full of reluctance. Take care of yourself. Elder sister will wait for you in the Divine Flame Palace. The next time we meet, Elder sister believes that you will be a man whose name will be known throughout the sacred boundary. Lin Chen hugged Bairuoyan tightly. The monsters of the Divine Flame Palace were all dumbfounded. If this scene happened in the palace, it would probably cause a huge battle between countless young monsters. The elders of the Divine Flame Palace completed the compensation with Old Shun and the others with ashen faces. Soon, everyone went their separate ways. Lin Shen knew that even if he could stop everyone present, the Divine Flame Palace would only send more experts over. Lin Shun stared at Bairuoyan's back as she left, watching her enter the Fireglass Palace. Brat, you are very strong. The elder of the Divine Flame Palace, who was holding a horsetail whisk, said indifferently. Although he was still cold, there was no longer any contempt in his eyes for Lin Shun. The guardian elder said indifferently, however, you are still not worthy of the goddess of my Divine Flame Palace. You don't know what heights she'll reach in the future. The goddess is someone from my palace who is connected to the legendary God Realm, just based on her status on the Demon Genius ranking. Before the guardian elder could finish his words, Lin Chen directly interrupted him. If the genius list isn't enough, what about the saint talent list? The youth smiled faintly, looking handsome and domineering. If the saint talent list isn't enough, then first place in the sacred boundary is enough. Lin Chen laughed heartily. If first place in the sacred boundary isn't enough, then I'll fight my way to the God realm. Even if the God realm is full of gods, it's just a matter of life and death. His laughter shook the universe, and everyone was moved. The youth's laughter shook everyone's hearts, revealing his terrifying confidence and determination. In the Fireglass Palace, the heavenly immortals were smiling brightly. The guardian elder was slightly stunned. After his advice was ineffective, he couldn't help but laugh coldly. Everyone knows how to talk big. Climb out of your puny third heaven true, Saint Realm first. Old Shun sighed as he watched the people from the Divine Flame Palace leave. What a good person. He even helped us compensate for our losses. Outside the sacred tower, in the Fireglass Palace that had sneaked into the void. What are you pretending for? First place in the sacred boundary? You want to fight your way to the God realm? Do you really think you are invincible? That's right, a frog at the bottom of a well, boasting shamelessly. In the Fireglass Palace, the four monstrous geniuses for the Divine Flame Palace, Zhang Fei, mocked him. If you guys are so self-righteous, why didn't you fight with him back then? The female prodigy from the Divine Flame Palace, who was dressed in a jade-green dress, curled her lips. The four of them immediately shrank back and snorted coldly. So what if he won against us? There are many people in the palace who are stronger than us. He doesn't know how big the sacred boundary is. At this moment, Look, what is that? In the Fireglass Palace, the other two female prodigies exclaimed. In the void, when everyone looked at the outside world, they instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. Even if they were teleporting at high speed, they could clearly see that from the ethereal mountain to the Azure Dragon Mountain range outside the sacred tower, there were cracks in the ground. The light was dim, the airflow was dry, and the space was collapsing. From the sky to the ground, everything was in ruins. High up in the sky, the elders of the sacred tower were repairing the cracks in the space from time to time. What would happen here? Even a battle between life and death realm experts at the 6th level of the Sage Realm isn't this ridiculous. The space in the sacred boundary isn't as fragile as the mortal world. Could it be a battle between peak 6th level Sage Realm experts? The four prodigies from the Divine Flame Palace said with trembling voices. This was a ghastly sight. Furthermore, the sky was filled with cracks in the space that looked like giant pythons. Their Fireglass Palace couldn't get too close when traveling through the void, which affected their speed. Is it very scary? The old female guardian walked over slowly and stood in the middle of the young prodigies. Even the elders looked at her curiously. The craftsmanship of this place was created by Lin Shun. The old woman's calm voice stirred up 1,000 waves. The expressions of the people from the Divine Flame Palace changed. He heeded it? Oh my God, how is this possible? Lin Chen did it? Especially when they saw the giant sinkhole. The people from the Divine Flame Palace felt their scalps tingle. If that was the case, then didn't he really use less than 30% of his strength to deal with Feng Tianxue? Was he still human? The old female guardian's eyes were deep as she gazed into the distance and said solemnly, "This child's future is immeasurable. If he can expand his meridians in the future, he will definitely be a true dragon that can shake the winds and clouds. He will eventually become an existence that even the Divine Flame Palace can't ignore." The old female guardian's evaluation moved the 7 prodigies. It was too difficult to shake a giant sect with one's strength alone. But this guardianine, who is known for her strictness, actually said such a shocking evaluation. Before the first wave subsided, another wave rose. The green-robed elder by Mei walked down from the 2nd floor of the Fireglass Palace in a hurry and said solemnly, "Guardianine, do you have time to take a look at Tianxue's injuries? This child has been bleeding nonstop since just now. This old man's 5-elemental colorful heart sutra is useless on him." The old female guardian shook her head and sighed. "Don't treat him. He only has himself to blame. Give him blood chi and bone replenishing sane elixirs. Before returning to the palace, his fate will be in the hands of the heavens." He is not the first one that was injured by that Lin Chen. Now he is still lying on the bed, paralyzed, and no one could treat him. With these words, the prodigies from the divine flame palace were dumbfounded. This child injured someone. Even a sixth-level saint of the divine flame palace couldn't treat him. A chill rose from the souls of the four prodigies from the divine flame palace and went straight to the top of their heads. Chapter 1273. Lin Shun stood there in a daze. Yao Wang. Old Shun patted him on the shoulder. Don't look, they're gone. Lin Shun said. Old Shun, I'm not looking. I'm just thinking about why my handsomeness has brought me so much trouble. Is it really a sin to be too handsome? Old Shun was speechless. Host received 700,000 points of spiritual power, 90,000 points of water-type energy, 100,000 points of fire-type energy, 90 million strengthening points, 230,000 heavenly path points, 60,000 set essences. The dragon shadow swept past, and the divine dragon helped Lin Shun collect the attribute light balls dropped by Feng Tianxue. Seeing the terrifying increase in attributes, Lin Shun couldn't help but sigh. Beating up these monsters is so king satisfying. It's so much faster than killing beasts to steal their attributes. If only there were a few more of them for me to beat up. Lin Shun used the Aries Vambrace, but he could only control its increased strength. He couldn't use any battle techniques. The reason was simple. Lin Shun couldn't control the power of the Aries Vambrace, as well as the power of his own flesh shell. It could be added to many sacred power attacks. Even many talents couldn't be added to the Aries Vambrace attacks. Unless one day, Lin Shun could perfectly control the power of the Aries Vambrace. Look at you, you're still in a mood to joke. I think you're not as bad as I thought. How about it, little guy? Do you want to join our boundary tower? Old Shun, who had always had the demeanor of an immortal, revealed a rare smile like that of a scoundrel as he looked at Lin Shun with a smile. I'll think about it. Old Shun, I need to go into seclusion for a while. Do you have any good cultivation mystic realms here? Lin Shun went straight to the point. Old Shun didn't force him. He smiled and said, Of course, you just need to pay a commission. Jin Luan, give him the emerald token in my name. A golden-haired old man beside him was moved. The emerald token was second only to the Xian Zhen token. It gave a 40% discount on all cultivation mystic realms and items. In the entire history of the Boundary Tower, there were no more than 100 emerald tokens given out, and all of them were powerhouses who were greatly indebted to the Boundary Tower. He didn't expect Old Shun to admire Lin Shun to this extent. Lin Shun took the emerald jade token from the golden-haired elder. Seeing the envious and amazed reactions of the other elders, Lin Shun intuitively felt the preciousness of this item. Since Elder Shun appreciates me so much, I'll give you something as well. Lin Shun smiled and flicked his finger. Silver light flashed. Elder Shun shook his head and laughed. He had paid attention to Lin Shun's news. This young man had many kinds of spiritual plants of destiny, but with Lin Shun's background, he did not think that this young man could give him anything beneficial. However, it was good that he had such intentions. When Old Shun raised his hand to grab it, he saw the item that Lin Shun had brought over. His expression changed abruptly. 10 fruits the size of lychees fell into Old Shun's eyes. They were wrapped in a silver gauze like brilliance, beautiful and dreamy. Roaming soul fruit. All the elders beside Old Shun were shocked beyond words. This item was a supreme sacred item that nourished one's spiritual power and enhanced one's spiritual perception. It was truly priceless and could only be found by chance. This kid actually had the roaming soul fruit. Could it be that he had a divine item like the roaming soul tree? Among the inferior grade spiritual plants of destiny, the roaming soul tree had the highest value. A single roaming soul tree was comparable to hundreds of inferior grade spiritual plants, or even more. All the spiritual plants of destiny that Lin Shun had on hand were not of any practical use to someone of Old Shun's level. Only this roaming soul fruit could be considered a treasure. Looking at Lin Shun's straightforward back view, Old Shun could not help but sigh. He's indeed a monster of a generation. He even has such a divine item. 2 days later, Lin Shun recovered from his recuperation and was in a completely new state. Sixth level of the Boundary Tower, Hall of Supreme Harmony. This place was occupied by various large merchant groups and many experts. Among the remaining sages, some were on the fourth, third, and top experts were trading in the Hall of Supreme Harmony on the sixth floor. In the Hall of Supreme Harmony, many forces brought their own geniuses and monsters to choose treasures in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. A special scene attracted everyone's attention. Lin Shun, Han Yiji, Jian Qingcheng, and Scarlet Fairy entered the hall together. The various beautiful sceneries made one unable to help but stop in their tracks. When they saw Lin Shun being surrounded by the three beauties like stars supporting the moon, no one felt that it was inappropriate because this young man had the strength to back it up. Han Yiji curiously asked, "Class monitor, are you going to participate in the Chosen One competition?" Lin Shun nodded and smiled. "I wasn't interested at first, but when I heard about the prize for the champion of the competition, I had to give it a try." The Chosen One competition was the alchemy conference that the mighty figures of the 7th grade sects and the elders of the 6th grade sects had suggested Lin Shun to participate in. This alchemy conference was held by the Pill region and had extremely high standards. There was no age limit, and there was only one chance in one's life to participate. Some old monsters who had been cultivating for thousands of years would also come out for this. The minimum registration requirement was also a 3rd grade saint-level alchemist. More importantly, the champion of the Chosen One competition would receive a scroll of orange-grade alchemy handprint, 2 mid-grade odd crystals, a mid-grade spirit plant of Lux Seed, a spot in the Pill region's highest Elder Council, and a spot in the Elder Council's Myriad Treasures secret realm to choose a 5-element 9th grade sacred ore. Any one of these rewards would be enough to shock a rank 6 sect, especially the spot in the highest Elder Council. It was a fatal attraction to some alchemists who had reached a bottleneck in alchemy. The Pill region's Elder Council had thousands of medicine manuals and thousands of alchemy books. Each of them was the most precious alchemy experience and records in the world. One could even become a 5th grade or 6th grade saint-level alchemist. Becoming a 7th grade saint-level alchemist was no exaggeration. It could be said that joining the Elder Council would give one the opportunity to touch the highest realm of the sacred boundary. But what attracted Lin Shun the most was the last reward. He could choose a 5-element 9th grade sacred ore. Lin Shun could think of other ways to make the right leg armor of the Aries set, but he couldn't buy the metal-type 9th grade sacred or with his financial resources. This was his only chance at this stage. Young Master is really bold. I heard that the top 10 of the Chosen One competition are 5th grade saint-level alchemists and above. Fairy Crimson smiled faintly, revealing her pink dimples. She looked extremely charming. Since the battle between Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen, the way Fairy Scarlet looked at Lin Shun had become very ambiguous and strange. From time to time, she would look at him like a delicate little fox. Indeed, Lin Shun couldn't deny it. He smiled and said, "I heard that many old monsters were born in the previous Chosen One competitions, each more terrifying than the last. It is one of the few places in the sacred boundary where we can see many orange-tier alchemy hand seals at the same time." A 5th grade saint-level alchemist, Jian Qingcheng, exclaimed. Even in her family, an alchemist of this level would be a high-class VIP. The 4 of them didn't talk through telepathy, so the experts in the hall heard them clearly. They couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. He actually wanted to participate in the Chosen One competition. Indeed, the skilled were bold, but Lin Shun was even bolder. In the previous Chosen One competitions, there wasn't even a single young alchemist in the top 20. Chapter 1274. Truly a newborn calf that isn't afraid of tiger. How old is this little fellow? Yet he dares to go to the Heavenly Selection Convention. I heard that even if a 3rd grade saint-level alchemist participated, he would only be sitting on the cold bench and becoming a stepping stone for others. The various sects were secretly surprised. Lin Shen's strength and trump cards were indeed heaven-defying. But alchemy wasn't fighting. It wasn't something that could be settled with just one punch with great strength. By the way, Iji, how did you inherit this power after coming to the sacred boundary? Lin Shen looked at Han Iji and asked curiously. Han Iji smiled. At the beginning, I was recruited along with everyone else to enter the third-rank sect, the Tao Transformation sect. However, less than a month later, the power behind the Tao Transformation sect, an elder of the universe Great Void Temple, passed by and sensed that my physique wasn't a pure void spirit physique. Instead, it was a myriad manifestations void body that was comparable to the direct bloodline of an 8th or 9th stage sage. Han Iji briefly recounted what had happened to her. After the heaven and earth Great Void Temple had discovered her, the Seventh Palace Lord also possessed the all creation's void body. Only Han Iji, who had a similar constitution and talent, could be the foundation of his inheritance. The phantom body was a unique physique that could automatically absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to nourish one's cultivation and spiritual energy. Therefore, when Lin Shun first saw Han Iji, he almost didn't feel her presence. The all-creation void body was a step further. Once the bloodline factor was activated and awakened, it would be like the realm of nothingness. It could completely connect with the spirit power and store all the holy power in the saint point into the spirit power. The spirit power and the holy power would perfectly fuse. Therefore, once Han Iji used her mental strength, she would be able to compete with or even defeat someone on the monster list. This was a unique talent in the world, not to mention that he had obtained the inheritance of the 7th generation palace master. It could be said that he had soared to the heavens. So you had such a fortuitous encounter. A genius is indeed a genius. Lin Shen clicked his tongue and sighed. After Class 66 arrived at the sacred boundary, Han Iji's growth rate was the fastest among all of them. Han Iji's small face was slightly red. She waved her hand and said with a smile, "Class monitor, don't laugh at me. Compared to you, how can I be considered a genius?" The beautiful young man's slightly red smile made someone's heart throb inexplicably. For a moment, he doubted his own sexual orientation, causing the two stunning beauties on his left and right to cast strange looks at him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Shun arrived at the counter of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. All the forces stopped what they were doing and stared at Lin Shun from the corners of their eyes. In front of the counter, there were two beautiful female elders who were as beautiful as autumn waters. They smiled gently. "Sir Lin Shun, what would you like to sell?" Lin Shun pondered for a moment and said, "Selling the seeds of spiritual plants of destiny. Is that okay? The kind that doesn't have special treasures." The beautiful woman paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "Of course, it's just an ordinary low-grade spirit plant seed, right?" All the experts were stunned. Were there still people selling seeds of plants of fortune these days? Wasn't this a huge loss? A low-grade spiritual plant of providence that had grown to its peak, even if it was a resource produced within 1,000 years, was still a huge sum of money. It wasn't that Lin Shun didn't understand this logic, but he didn't have the time. He wouldn't wait for thousands of years, not to mention that he would need to invest more resources in the short term to plant all the seeds of providence spirit plants on hand. If Lin Shun wanted to cultivate the best, he would need more resources in the short term. He placed one hand in front of the counter and wiped his palm. A series of lights appeared, embellishing the spirit light. Everyone was still guessing if he was going to sell 1 or 2 seeds when they saw the row of spiritual plant of destiny seeds in front of the counter. They were all stunned. That's right, they were really stunned. 10, 20, 30, 39. Seeing that the entire hall had quietened down, Lin Shen scratched his head shyly and said apologetically, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't have enough spiritual plant of destiny seeds. I'm only selling this many at the moment. Elders, please help me sell them all within 3 days." Hearing his words, some of the elders with extremely high cultivation and the heads of all the merchant groups couldn't help but tremble. "Crazy. You must be crazy. You call this too little? Can you King say something, human?" A fifth-grade sect had about 10 inferior-grade spiritual plants of destiny. A few of the top fifth-grade sects had 10 inferior-grade spiritual plants of destiny and 1 middle-grade spiritual plant of destiny. These sects often had a higher chance of nurturing monster-level geniuses in the top 1,000 of the genius roll. Naturally, there were many peerless experts present who had spiritual plan of destiny pouches. Each of them had 1 or even 2 to 3 inferior-grade spiritual plants of destiny. But this Lin Chun had taken out 39 pills in one go. He was almost selling the foundation of 4 fifth-grade sects. Although the foundation of 6th-grade sect was several times that of 5th-grade sect, they wouldn't dare to play like this. All the experts in the Hall of Supreme Harmony redefined the concept of too little at this moment. Your Excellency Lin Chun, are you sure you want to sell all these spiritual plant of destiny seeds? The lips of the two beautiful elders trembled as they asked. Lin Chun suddenly clapped his hands. Right, wait a minute. Everyone immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Regretting? That's right. Who would sell so many spiritual plant of destiny seeds at once? It's fine if you sell 1 or 2, but selling 39 is too much. However, the next moment, Lin Fan took out a box of exquisite jade boxes. When he opened the jade boxes, a faint silver light drifted between the jade boxes. Inside each jade box were 20 lychee-sized, silver-glowing fruits. They were dreamy and beautiful, filled with pure spiritual energy, like precious jade. There were a total of 20 jade boxes. Help me sell these as well. Lin Chun pushed the jade boxes over with a serious expression. Most of the experts were startled at first, but when they took a closer look, their hearts were throbbing. The color is silver, the entire body is like jade, and the spiritual energy lingers around it, making one's soul wander. This item, could it be the legendary divine item for alchemists, the divine wonder fruit? One of the managers of the merchant group cried out in shock. Silence, a deathly silence. The experts of various forces opened their mouths wide, as if they had seen a ghost. One had to know that the 6th-grade Chamber of Commerce, Vane Pavilion Droplet Chamber of Commerce, had only purchased 3 divine wander fruits since its establishment. Now, there were 400 divine wander fruits placed in front of them. The managers of various business groups were so shocked that they felt dizzy and their hearts trembled. When they saw the divine wander fruits placed in front of the counter, they almost rushed up to snatch them. If this wasn't the Realm Tower, the experts present would probably start a fight on the spot. It's real divine wander fruits, and the quality is excellent. It doesn't look like the kind that was picked from a long time ago. When the two beautiful women cried out in shock, their beautiful faces turned pale. Immediately, one of them reacted and respectfully said, "Sir, it's fine. Sir Lin Chun, don't worry. We will help you sell it at the highest price at this stage." After saying that, they carefully put away the spiritual plant of destiny seeds and divine wander fruits that Lin Chun wanted to sell. According to the rules of the Realm Tower, the handling fee after this transaction would make them overjoyed. They were afraid that Lin Chun would go back on his word and quickly put it away. By the way, after the sale, help me buy the things I need according to the list. Send the rest to my secret room. Lin Chun threw out a list and his emerald token. The list listed a large number of names, such as 2,000 cubic meters of Chani holy water, the attributes of odd crystals, and the quantity, as many second-grade sacred artifacts as there were, thousands of medicinal herbs. The beautiful elder took the list and the emerald token with her sharp eyes and said in surprise and joy, "Sir Lin Chun, don't worry, we will do our best." Even when Lin Chun left, the mouths of many experts had yet to close. Too perverted. This young man. They had never seen such a large transaction until now. Among the group of potential evildoers, a charming beauty stared at Lin Chun's back as he left. She couldn't help but clamp her legs together. Her beautiful eyes were like the autumn water as she sighed in a daze. Young Master Lin Chun is indeed extraordinary. Even when he's selling something, he looks so handsome. Chapter 1275. In the dark hall, a figure descended from the sky. The horned youth in the hall immediately knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Welcome, master, out of seclusion." That person's tone was low, but it contained a supreme majesty, causing fear to appear on the faces of several figures outside the hall. Suddenly, the person who came out of seclusion opened his eyes, and a supreme, killing intent swept through the entire world. Rumble, rumble. Outside the hall, countless spatial storms rumbled, and an extremely evil aura flowed in the tremors. He had an imposing appearance and looked like a handsome man in his 30s. His face was chiseled, resolute, and dignified, but his face was as pale as paper. "Is it true that there is a second ultimate shadow?" the handsome man asked. The horned youth reported respectfully, "Master Ian, it is absolutely true. We have confirmed it many times." The handsome man was Ian, son of heaven, who was once on a monster ranking. Just as he said that, rumble, another figure descended into the hall. The person who came had a black robe and looked like a young man. His entire body was rolling with cold demonic light, and a storm-like dragon breath burst out from his glabella. His pair of deep, dark eyes were flowing with demonic light, and his aura wasn't inferior to the pale Ian, son of heaven. There were even some auras of other races leaking out. "You are here?" Ian, son of heaven asked indifferently. He nodded, and when he turned to look at Ian, son of heaven, his cold face squeezed out a cruel smile. "You control so many odd crystals and can even refine a mixed shadow. You are indeed a monster," Ian, son of heaven said indifferently. "Compared to you, I feel more like an ordinary person. Is that so?" He. The indifferent youth immediately laughed evilly, and his facial features quickly distorted and changed from a young man to a hunchbacked old man. What was even more terrifying was that it wasn't just his appearance and aura that changed, but even his life structure had completely changed. If one didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it at all. How could changing the life of a saint be child's play? I think our goal this time is the same, isn't it? The ultimate shadow in the world is only me. The hunchbacked old man laughed evilly. Ian, son of heaven smiled. "I want people, you can swallow that shadow." Both sides hit it off. "No problem." Pill region, sky-bearing city, supporting the heavens, stood in the middle of the realm. 10,000 saints gathered and kowtowed to the heavens. Sky-bearing city was the giant city at the center of the northern and southern regions of the Pill region. Its ruler even surpassed the level of a grade 7 sect. On this day, the nations of Sky-bearing city came. 2 months ago, there was already a sea of people here. Countless disciples and sages from rank 3 and rank 4 sect had come to watch the fun. If one could encounter an alchemist in this kind of gathering, it was extremely likely that it would be a fortuitous opportunity and good fortune. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The clear sound of flowing water echoed from the south gate of Sky-bearing city. The experts coming and going turned to look at the horizon. Hundreds of flowers, spirit birds, blue lawn, fire phoenix, golden crow, and hundreds of other birds flew towards them. On the back of the true flame purple phoenix, a graceful figure stood proudly. Her snow-white legs were slender and smooth, making people want to sit up. She had an oval-shaped face and exquisite facial features. She was elegant and proud. Between her seemingly elegant eyebrows, there was a coldness that kept people thousands of miles away. She was like a princess from a neighboring country, a complete ice beauty. Like a phoenix among hundreds of birds, the moon supported by the stars. The ice beauty casually glanced at the crowd below, her brows furrowed. A bunch of ordinary people. Since ancient times, is there really no one who is worthy of this princess? The ice beauty looked into the distance. Is it really so difficult to find a man who can defeat this princess in alchemy? Is the heavens punishing this princess for being too outstanding, or is this princess working too hard? It's Princess Yun Qing of the desolate Holy Empire, Purple Star Kingdom. She also came to participate in the Heaven's Choice meeting. Too terrifying, as expected of someone on the monster ranking. I only looked at her eyes, and her mental power was as deep as the sea. I almost wet my pants. So beautiful, I want to be stepped on by her. Pah, it's broad daylight. You shameless bastard. I even turned off the lights. The moment this woman appeared, the crowd was shocked. Clang, 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 a wave of bells rang. There is also a phenomenon at the north gate of sky-bearing city. A long palanquin was lightly lifted by 4 flower children and hung with bells. Every bell from the palanquin emitted a soul-stirring mental power. On the other side of the palanquin, wind and clouds gathered. 2 cloud foxes walked through the air with beautiful figures. A beautiful young woman wearing a jade green dress appeared, her face full of charm. Many sages were stunned by this scene. On the roof of a pavilion, an expanded cavern realm old man watching this scene from afar exclaimed in shock. Jing Taizong's bell palanquin, Hua Manla's cloud fox, 1,000 pill 10,000 hands Li Daoran, and Hua Manla's extreme cloud refinement saint. At the east gate of sky-bearing city, a flying sword tiger appeared. At the west gate of sky-bearing city, a youth rode the wind and clouds. His left, I was tender, and his right, I was bewitching. His forehead was filled with the vicissitudes of life. Blade regions Jing Taizong, Li Daoran. 1,000 regions Hua Manlu, Flying Refinement Saint. Yellow regions Yellow Spring Palace, Xiao Huang, Xuanyu's Cloud Rain Palace. Wan Yunyu. Each and every one of those world-shaking saint-level alchemists whose names were renowned both at home and abroad appeared one after another. Every name on the list was an important figure. Even in a 6th-rank family, they would be the top guests. Not only the demon genius list, but also those super alchemists whose names had shaken the world in the past. All appeared. This is too scary. What kind of heaven-defying lineup is this? I want to see. I don't want to wait a moment. Who will be the champion of this year's chosen convention? Damn it, I'm so excited that I almost crushed my balls. However, this was only the prelude. There were 41 days left before the chosen one began. On the other side, Lin Shun was at ease with the realm tower handling things. He was no longer the same as before. As a member of the Demon Genius list, he was not afraid of being targeted even if he revealed the Wanderer fruit. Not to mention the Wanderer fruit. Even the Wanderer tree was enough to support Lin Chen's possession of a saint-level treasure like the Wanderer tree. No one in the 36 regions dared to touch him. In addition, with so many business groups and forces gathered in the Realm Tower, Lin Chen was not worried that the seeds of the Planet Providence and the Wanderer fruit could not be sold for a good price. Lin Chen and his group went to the 8th floor. He personally paid 3,000 Saint Origin coins for 30 days of use of the top-level secret realm. In the Flower Sea's secret realm, colorful petals danced in the sky. It was magnificent. Lin Chen's original body and 6 clones sat cross-legged in the Flower Sea. Every single one of the fluttering petals appeared out of thin air, and from thin air to thin air, appearing and disappearing out of thin air. Upon closer inspection, this flower actually flowed with a mysterious spirituality that could stimulate a cultivator's mental perception. Very good, as expected of the Realm Tower. Cultivating my spiritual power here can be said to be rapid progress. Lin Chun, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes and was very satisfied. He ordered his 6 clones to enter a state of cultivation. While eating the Wanderer fruit, he circulated the Genesis Bible to cultivate his spiritual power. Next, Lin Chun would prepare for the Chosen One with all his might. This alchemy competition was far better than any alchemy competition that Lin Chun had participated in before. This was related to the Aries set, so he had to give it his all to win the championship. Chapter 1276. The 6 clones replaced Lin Chun to circulate the Genesis Holy Scripture and consume the astral travel fruit, while Lin Chun focused on opening the system. Heavenly Tao Collection System Version 7.0 Host Lin Chun Cultivation Early 3rd Heaven Sage Realm 21 Saint Points Advanced Essence 1026. 6 billion points limit power. 8 billion dragon power. Flesh shell awakening plus 100%. Advanced blood. 454. 5 billion points advanced spirit. 587 million points. Peak of intermediate saint rudiment realm. Advanced cultivation soul essence. 10. 99 million points. Advanced rune energy. 19. 95 million points. Intermediate heaven path. 6. 22 million points. Intermediate talent points. 11. 2 million points. Set essence. 6. 36 million points. Blank attribute. 0 points. Strengthening points. 1. 865 billion points. Refined odd crystals. 17 pieces. Advanced elemental energy. 4. 1 million points of fire. 4. 15 million points of earth. 3. 99 million points of wood. 4. 33 million points of metal. 4. 41 million points of water. 4. 35 million points of lightning. 4. 31 million points of wind. 3. 46 million points of light. 3. 52 million points of darkness. Set column. Golden War God set. Ultimate right vambrace. Ultimate left leg armor. Blueprint. Ultimate right leg armor. Bloodline status column. Cultivation method column. Life awakening column. Active talent column. Passive talent column. Sure kill skill column. Special rune column. Talent combination skill. System. I choose to awaken my spiritual power, consuming 6 million heaven path points. Host has awakened the second stage of spiritual power, and the speed of spiritual power has increased by 8 times. Lin Shun had used up more than 90% of his heaven path points, and his spiritual perception and reaction speed had increased by several notches. At this moment, Lin Shen's spiritual sea was like the convergence of thousands of galaxies, majestic and vast. It was more than 100 times stronger than when he was in the early stage of the Saint Rudiment realm. I'm very close to the next realm of the Saint Rudiment realm. Now, I can casually release my spiritual power to injure or even defeat a 4th Heaven Sage realm expert. I wonder if I can threaten a 4th Heaven Sage realm expert or even a 5th Heaven Sage realm expert. Lin Shan was very satisfied and continued to adjust the system. System, I want to use all the set essence on the right vambrace and left leg armor. Consumed 6. 36 million set essence. Charged Ares ultimate right vambrace. 2. 3%. Ultimate left leg armor. 2. 4%. Seeing that the war god's vambrace had improved, Lin Shen's anxious heart relaxed by half. That day, he had used the battle god's vambrace in front of everyone. Although the almighty of a 7th rank aristocratic family wouldn't covet him, he would still get into trouble. With strength in hand, it was better to be safe. As for the left greave, it was Lin Shen's trump card. As the most handsome man in the sacred boundary, it was necessary for him to hold back a little more. This was to prevent others from having a strong murderous intent and losing their minds over his handsomeness and talent. Clear snow plant pouch. 5 spirit plant seedlings were planted to give birth to new life. This was Lin Shen's reward from the Monster Genius list. The 5 spirit plant seeds of providence would produce spirit items with different characteristics. He did not sell them. The spirit plant seeds Lin Shen sold were all produced by the Blue Jade Rod. Other than phase with no special characteristics, the amount of natural treasures and silver saint origin coins produced was the same as ordinary low-grade spiritual plants. On the other hand, Lin Shen looked at Little Shadow, who slept after eating and felt helpless. This little guy's powers are getting stronger and stronger. His appetite is also getting bigger and bigger. Half of the sacred pills are used to raise this little guy. Lin Shen looked at the peach garden plant pouch. Other than the wandering divine tree, which only produced wandering divine fruits, the other spirit plants were shining brightly. They were full of natural treasures and special phase. I've been using red gold vine, long kingwo, and dragon blood saliva. The holy dragon is also not holding back. It eats as much as it can, but now that its cultivation is too high, its improvement is slowing down. In the past, when Lin Shun was in the War Emperor realm and had just become a Saint realm cultivator, the resources produced by the low-grade spirit plants could still satisfy Lin Shun and his Saint Dragon. However, now that both of them had transformed greatly, the Long Qing fruit and dragon blood saliva could not keep up. In fact, it was not that they could not keep up. It was just that Lin Shin's requirements were a little high. He was not like other saints who could cultivate in seclusion for decades. When he looked at the clear snow plant pouch again, a pink seedling was growing quietly. Lin Shin couldn't help but be happy. It's growing. Lin Shin carefully looked at the pink seedling. This was the reward for Fairy Crimson, a mid-grade spiritual plant seed. Only the top 5th grade and 6th grade sects had mid-grade spiritual plants. Moreover, they were even rarer. Once a mid-grade spiritual plant reached mid-grade, it would only produce golden Saint Origin coins and a small number of 8th grade herbs. Lin Shun learned from Old Shun that high-grade spiritual plants were only in the hands of 7th grade giants. Every grade of spiritual plant was a whole new world. It was said that even a 7th grade giant only had one high-grade spiritual plant. As for the top-grade spiritual plants, there were very few records. They could be traced back to the history of the sacred boundary hundreds of millions of years ago. A peerless spiritual plant had never appeared before. Lin Shin looked at it for dozens of breaths before he recognized the true form of the spiritual plant. The roots are like the whiskers of a dragon, and the seedling is like an ancient grass. The leaves are dark green, and the shape is pink like a rose. This is the immortality peach tree. The immortality peach could allow a mortal to undergo nirvana and be reborn. If consumed by a mortal, it could transform one's life and increase one's lifespan by 10,000 years. It could even allow one to break through to the true saint realm. If consumed by a true saint, it could strengthen one's foundation and strengthen one's true saint energy. It could be used to break through the bottleneck of a true saint realm cultivator. It could even break through the bottleneck of a true saint realm cultivator. It's actually an immortality peach. Where did Fairy Crimson come from? In order to shatter the illusory enchanted stone, she was willing to give away such a spiritual plant seed. Lin Shun clicked his tongue in amazement. The immortality peach would have a huge effect on his true Saint Dragon and his true body. I'll just wait for the heavenly one holy water in the sacred boundary tower. Before that, I'll have to practice my alchemy skills. Lin Shun sat down cross-legged and took out all the herbs in the air. He began to refine pills. Although he did not have an orange-grade alchemy hand seal, the enhanced True Dragon Divine Hands should be the best alchemy hand seal under the orange-grade alchemy hand seals. For 7 days, Lin Shun went into seclusion. His doppelganger cultivated his mental strength while his true body focused on refining pills. During this period of time, a storm broke out in the Boundary Tower. Dozens of spiritual plant seeds were auctioned off, and hundreds of astral travel fruits appeared. Various forces were bidding for them. The reason was simple. Spiritual plant seeds were rarely circulated in the market. Those who obtained them mostly relied on luck and opportunity or the heritage of a force. Even if it was the most common seed in the lower grade, once it was cultivated to its peak, its value would continue to increase with the accumulation of time. If a low-grade spiritual plant was properly protected, it could live for 10 million years. The profits and resources it would bring in during this period would be a huge sum. On the 8th day, when the 2 beautiful female elders brought Lin Shin's list of ingredients to the secret realm where Lin Shun was, they were even more shocked. There was a dazzling array of herbs floating in the air. It was as if they had entered a sea of heavenly treasures. The large number of 7th grade heavenly treasures was not enough to move them. What truly shocked the 2 beautiful female elders was the young man below the heavenly treasures. He sat alone, and the spiritual petals of the sea of flowers danced around him. His temperament was like that of an immortal otherworldly. His gaze moved back and forth, up and down. Sometimes he stared, sometimes he closed his eyes. The herbs in the sky seemed to have spirituality. They removed the shells, purified, and condensed into pills. The two beautiful female elders' eyes shone like peach blossoms. He's actually refining pills with his gaze. Chapter 1277. Herbs flew in the air, and the refinement process was as smooth as flowing water. It was as though they were enjoying an artistic feast. When Lin Shun had participated in the Genius Rankings pill refining feast, his individual pill refining skills were only at the peak of the 3rd grade. If all his clones worked together, he would have a higher chance of refining a 4th grade Saint pill. That was his previous limit. The difference between a 4th grade Saint pill and a 3rd grade Saint pill was huge. It was similar to the difference between a 3rd Heaven True Saint realm and a 4th Heaven Expanded Acupoint realm. The value of a 4th grade Saint pill was equivalent to 10 3rd grade Saint pills. However, Lin Shen's mental strength had yet to break through to the mid-stage Saint realm at that time. After his trip to the Great Desolate Dragon Tribe, his mental strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Now, he was only a step away from the late-stage Saint realm. If my clones refine pills, I can guarantee a higher success rate if I refine most of the 4th grade Saint pills. If all my clones work together, I might be able to challenge a 5th grade Saint pill. I wonder what the success rate is. When Lin Shen exited his pill refining state, he had a rough estimation of his pill refining skills. The difficulty of refining a 5th grade Saint pill was extremely high, and the rarity of pill recipes was comparable to orange grade cultivation techniques. Lin Shen only had 2 scrolls of 5th grade pill recipes on hand. One was the Holy Flame Meridian Opening pill recipe that Bai Ruoyan had given him, and the other was the 5 Elements Heaven Polarity pill recipe that he had obtained from injuring Lin Xingchen in the treasure chest. If he really had to rely on buying the 5th grade pill recipe, he would have to sell more than half of the Lux spiritual seeds. The top 10 alchemists in the previous Heavenly Selection conventions were all 5th grade Saint pill refiners. With my current strength, it will be difficult for me to make it to the top, not to mention winning the championship. Lin Shen frowned as he pondered. Only then did he realize that the 2 elders were staring at him with their mouths agape. I'm sorry, Elder Ha and Elder Ha. I was too focused. Is my item done? The 2 elders finally regained their senses. Although they had heard rumors about Lin Shen, it was still too shocking to see it with their own eyes. There was actually an alchemist in this world who didn't need to form seals and could refine pills with just his gaze. It was too ridiculous. 2nd Heaven True Saint realm cultivators had exploded their acupoints consecutively. Then he had beaten 3 monstrous geniuses by himself. Then he had punched through the World Pagoda with a single punch. It was as if nothing that happened to this young man was normal. Fortunately, we didn't disappoint you. After the Realm Towers auction and search, after deducting the 30% discount and handling fee, as well as the materials and requirements you have to pay, we still have 42 million gold Saint Origin coins left. The 2 beautiful female elders bowed respectfully and handed over a storage ring and Lin Shen's emerald token. 42 million gold Saint Origin coins was equivalent to 14.2 billion silver Saint Origin coins. More importantly, this was the remaining wealth after purchasing the resources that Lin Shen had requested. Lin Shen was not surprised. If a low-grade plan of Providence reached its peak, it would accumulate more than 100 million silver Saint Origin coins in 10 years, which was equivalent to 10,000 gold Saint Origin coins. Of course, the value of a spirit plant seed naturally could not be calculated by the resources it produced in its lifetime. A few million or 10 million years was also a long time for a saint. Lin Shen had sold 39 spirit plant of destiny seeds and 400 wandering soul fruits. Naturally, they had been auctioned off at sky-high prices. Well, thank you, elders. Lin Shen was not surprised. When he took the storage ring, the 2 elders looked at each other. One of them took out a scroll from the gap between her snow-white chest and carefully handed it to Lin Shun. Elder Shun instructed us to give this to Sir Lin Shun. Lin Shun took it curiously. When he released his mind power to read it, he could not help but be moved. If you have any instructions, please let us know, Sir Lin Shun. The two elders had a tacit understanding and immediately took their leave. Old Mr. Shun is really willing to spend money. Lin Shun clicked his tongue in wonder. Sealed within the scroll was a mysterious pill formula and 100 scriptures. Each scripture was written by a high-level alchemist and had been written by generations of alchemy elders in the Realm Tower. 100 scriptures were 100 saint-level alchemists. Every alchemist was at least a 4th-grade alchemist. Although the content was recorded by Elder Shun with his mind power and could only be read once, there were more than 100 copies, and their value was extraordinary. In the past, Lin Shun would definitely not accept such a valuable item easily, but this Heaven's Choice convention was related to the progress of his Ares set. He had to go all out and do everything he could. Seems like I owe the Realm Tower a big favor. Lin Shun sighed as he opened the 2 storage rings. On one side, there was a mountain of gold Saint Origin coins piled up like a small mountain. On the other side, there were 3,400 cubic meters of Tiani holy water sealed with sacred power. There were tens of thousands of grade 8 herbs arranged, and there were more than 40 precious grade 8 sacred beast cores. There were also 4 low-grade odd crystals, 2 of which were the most precious blood attribute odd crystals and 1 mid-grade fire attribute odd crystal. It was not that there were so many forces and business groups in the Realm Tower, but Lin Shun's primary goal was the sacred weapon, followed by the odd crystals. However, there were many raw materials for the odd crystals. In this storage ring, there was the 9 suns treasure chi from the starry sky, the glazed geocentric core essence, and the darkness layer's dark origin. These were all the original energies for the creation of odd crystals. However, they were taken away when they were discovered, so their value was not as high as the real odd crystals. If they fell into the hands of others, they would at most be sold as a special energy body. But Lin Shun was different. He was someone who had mastered the ancient secret technique and could use the Lux spirit plants to cultivate odd crystals. He just needed a period of time, and these original energies would all become his odd crystal foundation. Other than that, there was a dazzling array of sacred weapons in the 2nd storage ring. That's right, a large number of 2nd-grade sacred weapons. There were 281 of them. This was the largest number of sacred weapons that the Realm Tower could purchase. Sacred weapons were not common and were instead very precious resources. For example, although Feng Tianque's Grade 5 Saint artifact, the hell-suppressing mysterious ice armor, had been destroyed by Lin Chen's War God's Vambrace, it wasn't that it was weak, it was just that Lin Chen's strength was too strong. If one really wanted to compare, all the Saint artifacts in Lin Chen's possession added together wouldn't be as valuable as that Grade 5 Saint armor. To make the right leg armor, I still need more than 700 2nd-grade sacred weapons. I really have a long way to go. After Lin Shun sighed, he poured all the Tiani holy water on his immortal peach seedlings, followed by the 5 low-grade spirit plants he had cultivated. With the nourishment of the Tiani holy water, their spirituality soared and the spirit plant seedlings grew rapidly. Lin Shun entered the 2nd stage and watered the Wanderer Divine tree with the Tiani holy water to speed up the production of the Wanderer Divine fruit. He still had 1,000 Wanderer Divine fruits left. One Wanderer Divine fruit could give him about 10,000 to 20,000 points of advanced spiritual power. Whether he could break through to the next level would depend on the remaining time and the accumulation of the Wanderer Divine fruits. Then, Lin Shun issued an order. System, I want to learn all the content in the scroll. Consumed 510,000 points of advanced cultivation technique soul essences, merged with 100 scrolls of elixir recipe memories. Merged with elixir recipe memories. When Lin Shun merged with the elixir recipe memories, his expression changed again. More than 20 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Shun had already been in seclusion in the spiritual mystic realm for a month, but not many people in the realm tower had left. To a sage, a month was like a snap of the fingers. It was not worth mentioning. To Lin Shun, however, it was a pressing time for cultivation. Boom! At that moment, a terrifying spiritual wave came from the realm tower. The spiritual power was so strong that it even alarmed old Shun. This spiritual power, could it be that the little guy has come out of seclusion? Old Shun, who was on the 9th level, disappeared in a flash. Chapter 1278. The class monitor is out. What a powerful spiritual fluctuation. It's comparable to that of those old monsters. He's really a monster. His progress is beyond common sense. Han Yiji, Fairy Scarlet, and Jian Qingsheng were waiting outside the secret realm. They were shocked when they heard the mental fluctuation coming from the secret realm's gate. More than a dozen elders in the boundary tower were alarmed. Elder Shun appeared in an instant, coming and going without a trace. At this moment, the gate was pushed open, and a slightly embarrassed young man came out. His robe was torn, but his eyes were in high spirits. He was handsome and charming. Before the crowd had time to marvel, they saw the cultivation's secret realm behind the gate and couldn't help but twitch their mouths. They saw that the space crystal wall in the secret realm was full of big holes and thick space cracks. It had been blown apart. Are you trying to cultivate here, or are you trying to cause trouble? Ahem, about that. I was trying out a new alchemy method and accidentally got too excited. Lin Shin scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. What's your new alchemy method? Why did you make such a big fuss? Elder Shun was speechless. The restoration of this space secret realm was not like that of an ordinary space plane. Forget it. This matter is not a big deal. Little guy, there are only 13 days left until the Dan region's Chosen One conference. It will be very rushed if you take the normal route. It's not suitable for you to prepare for the conference. I've already opened a space passage on the 9th floor of the boundary tower. If there's nothing else, let's go. Elder Shun waved his hand carelessly. Lin Shin's expression suddenly became serious and solemn. He cupped his fists and said to Elder Shun, Old Shun, Lin Shun will always remember your efforts in nurturing this kid. If there's any trouble in the boundary tower, I, Lin Shun, will do my best to help. Elder Shun was stunned and beamed. I didn't think highly of you in vain. Go, let more people at the Chosen One conference see your talent. Lin Shin grinned and said, I don't have much talent, but I'm the most handsome. On the 9th floor, in front of the space passage of the Silver Vortex, Lin Shun changed into a brand new set of robes and was in high spirits. The robes that Sister Royan had embroidered for him were well kept by him. You have to be at least at the 6th level Sage realm to be able to open such a long-distance spatial tunnel. The people of the World Tower really think highly of you. Fairy Scarlet clicked her tongue in wonder. Lin Shin was a little speechless. I say, why are you following me so naturally? The beautiful woman arched her eyebrows, looking as crafty as a fox. Can I? I suddenly feel like following behind you. Lin Shun rubbed his chin. No, I prefer to be behind you. The innocent Jian Qingsheng looked at the two of them, but Han Yiji said, Class leader, are you really ready? As for the medicinal ingredients and pill formulas, you have to prepare all of these on your own before you can participate in the competition. Lin Shun clapped his hands in realization. That's right. How could I forget? Following which, he lifted Han Yiji's chin and said, Why would I need to bring any medicinal ingredients to the convention? Bringing you is enough. The two girls rolled their eyes, and Han Yiji averted her gaze. Jian Qingsheng opened his palm, and a silver spatial ship unfolded. It was a spatial sacred artifact. Use this. It's our family's spatial sacred artifact. Seeing the spatial ship shuttling at high speed, Lin Chen sighed. What exactly was Jian Qingsheng's background? This spatial sacred artifact was no ordinary item. No wonder she dared to go to the illusory heart dragon's territory alone to carry out a mission. Next, this is it. Inside the spatial ship, Lin Shun took out 2 blood-type odd crystals, put them into the sacred cave, and began to refine them. Time passed. To reach the Pill domain from the Song domain tower, one had to pass through 1,000 domains, and then to reach the Pill domain, one had to cross 2 large domains. If not for Old Shin's help, Lin Shun and the others would have to travel day and night. Ordinary sages didn't even need to talk about it. Even if they took the spatial channel of other high-level forces, it would take at least a year and a half. 12 days later, Pill Domain, sky-bearing city. There was a sea of people outside the city. Most of the people who couldn't enter the city were second-grade sects and low-level forces, as well as combat emperors. During this period, too many important people had appeared in sky-bearing city. As long as one was an alchemist, it was impossible for them not to have heard of the alchemy grandmasters that appeared in the city. Every single one of them would be considered a grandmaster in the outside world, a prominent figure. Now that the end of the registration period for the Heaven's Choice Convention was approaching, more top alchemists appeared one by one. A group of people gathered in sky-bearing city square. Although there were only 100 people, every one of them was a well-known figure. This was a portion of the participants who had signed up later. On both sides of the square were the important VIPs and participants who had completed the test in advance. They had already entered the venue and could observe the test results. There was also a breathtakingly beautiful figure that attracted countless gazes from the VIP seats on both sides. A fiery, devilish figure, a beautiful young girl's face, a seductive and mature temperament between her brows, beautiful eyes that flowed like blue waves. This was a young girl with a face as beautiful and pure as an angel, but she had a devilish figure that people couldn't take their eyes off. Her smile and frown gave off a seductive aura that could turn all living things upside down. It was extremely enchanting. There was a beautiful charm in the purity. It was the little demon empress, one of the top 10 beauties on the monster ranking. Her aura was far stronger than before. She had advanced to the aperture expansion realm. Inside the square were the alchemists who were about to participate in the test. The geniuses that Lin Shun had met before were also here. Qimei of the genius ranking, Shangguan Luli who used a fox to refine pills, Fei Xiaoyu who was known as the Heavenly Fiend. What was even more surprising was that inside the square, there was Long Yijing who was dressed in black robes and had his long hair tied up. He always looked gentle and refined. His aura was full, the power of his saint points surging like a mountain and sea prison. Some of his saint aura leaked out. He was in the aperture expansion realm. When they saw this scene, many of the older alchemists couldn't help but look at him in astonishment. It was impossible for them not to have heard of the monster ranking, let alone Long Yijing, who is a genius in alchemy. The monster ranking's Long Yijing is here too? According to the news I received, wasn't he seriously injured and paralyzed in bed? That's strange. His aura actually broke through to the 4th heaven true saint realm. How did he advance in such a short time? The few master alchemists glanced at each other, then started talking to each other through voice transmission. At this moment, Long Yijing's aura could swallow mountains and rivers. That's right, Long Yijing had indeed broken through. Moreover, his cultivation and mind had both broken through. His mind had advanced to the mid-stage of the Saint Rudiment realm. He had been hit by Lin Chen's extermination rupture wound. His body and mind had been severely injured, and this state had lasted for a total of 29 days. However, he had endured through it. Moreover, this time, he had suffered a fate worse than death. He had been reborn from the ashes. This was the talent of a monster ranking. The uniqueness and potential of the monster ranking were recognized by the sacred boundary. Not only had he survived the battle with Lin Shun, but he had also been on the brink of death. In the end, he had accumulated enough energy to break through the bottleneck and successfully enter the aperture expansion realm. He had opened his 31st saint point and expanded his acupoints by 17 times. Every time Long Yijing thought about that hellish month, he couldn't help but shudder. However, now that the love of his life was here, Long Yijing was showing off his rebirth in high spirits. He didn't know if Xiao Jing, Emote Qing Su, and Feng Tianshui, who had suffered the same fate, could do the same. After all, everyone's injuries were different. The degree of torture was also different. Not to mention, luck played a large part in this. Chapter 1279. At that moment, Long Yijing felt that he was very handsome. He looked gentle and refined on the surface, but his eyes were full of high spirits. At least, there were very few monsters who could reach the illumination realm at his age, except for a certain handsome guy. Cough, cough, cough. The sound of coughing struck everyone's consciousness. A hunchbacked old man appeared in the square like a ghost. Many alchemists were on guard and were in awe of him. His face was dry and skinny, and the exposed parts of his body were full of scars. He was like a candle in the wind that would be extinguished with a blow. Only his eyes were sharp like an eagle in the night that had found its prey. This kind of old monster had lived for who knows how many eras. Even the most prominent figures in the alchemy world would have to address him as a senior monster. Ha! Although the registration requirement this time is to be a third-grade Saint Alchemist, I won't make you refine pills on the spot. It's just a simple test of your spiritual perception. The hunchbacked old man laughed strangely and continued. I feel that there are too many people participating now, and the venue is not enough. I want to eliminate more people, so I've come to test you personally. How is it? Am I taking special care of you? The moment he said that, everyone's expression changed slightly. The people in the VIP seats on both sides also had interesting expressions. This old monster was actually testing them personally. This senior, us alchemists pay particular attention to harmony and nurturing one's nature. The previous applicants all had the same test. Isn't this action inappropriate? At that moment, Long Yijing stepped forward and bowed in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Cough, cough. Haha. A junior on the monster ranking? The hunchbacked old man laughed strangely. You dare disobey me? Do you want to be in the limelight? Do you really think you're very powerful? Who wasn't a monster back then? Boom! A terrifying spiritual pressure suddenly enveloped the dragon right crystal. Long Yijing was shocked. This mind power was like an entire universe that was suppressing his spiritual sea. It was absolutely crushing. He immediately concealed his spirit and chi, and his saint meridians glowed as he pushed his spiritual power to the maximum. Interesting. Your spiritual power has just advanced to the middle stage of the saint rudiment stage. It's barely passable. The hunchbacked old man did not give Long Yijing any face at all. He suddenly increased his spiritual power. Long Yijing broke out in cold sweat, and his legs trembled. He had gone overboard. At that moment, boom, the space trembled, and a crack appeared. A huge spaceship that had been blown over flew out from the crack. All the experts present were shocked. Did someone dare to barge into sky-bearing city? When the hunchbacked old man removed his spiritual pressure, Long Yijing heaved a sigh of relief. What kind of pill are you refining? It's almost blowing up my boat. Kakik, could it be that Prince Lin Chun is playing with exploding pills? The two beauties pouted coquettishly. Their voices were like yellow orioles, crisp and graceful, causing everyone to be stunned. The spaceship was caught by a huge dragon claw. A young man in a silver robe with 9 colors of brilliance lingering around him stood with his dragon head held high. He was also illuminated by holy light that covered all directions. He was handsome and had 3 stunning beauties by his side. The group of people looked like they had come from a fairyland that had never been tainted by the mortal world. It was very stunning. Even the sages present who were knowledgeable and experienced had rarely seen such a team. I can't see through this kid's spiritual realm. What a strong, holy aura. Is this the cultivation of a third heaven true saint? All the experts saw the clues and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It's him. It's Big Brother Lin Chun. Chi Mei Shangwan Lioli, and the cute-faced Xiao Yu exclaimed in surprise. It's you? Lin Shun. Only Long Yi Jing cried out in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. Lin Shun was stunned, and the corner of his mouth rose. So it's Brother Yi Jing. As the saying goes, one who survives a great disaster is bound to be struck by lightning. Someone protected you last time, so Brother Yi Jing was lucky enough to survive. I wonder if there will be such a good opportunity next time? His words made many alchemists even more interested. Their expressions were very interesting. Everyone knew that killing on the monstrous genius's ranking was forbidden. No one was allowed to kill someone on the monstrous genius's ranking openly. This young man had actually said such disgraceful words in front of everyone. Lin Shun. This kid is the Lin Shun who caused havoc in the Sacred Burial Mountain Range and turned the 5th and 6th ranked sects of the southern region upside down. He's here too? I seem to have heard that he also knows how to refine pills. Could it be that Long Yi Jing's injury was caused by him? When some experts exclaimed, Long Yi Jing's face instantly turned ashen. He was like a wolf whose tail had been stepped on, especially when his sweetheart was still present. He was so angry that he laughed. Lin Shun, don't be too arrogant. I'm in the expansive point realm now. If we really fight, you may not be able to gain the upper hand. When Lin Shun and Lin Chen fought, he had already been carried back to recuperate. After that, he broke through the bottleneck and rushed to the elixir region. He didn't know about Lin Chen's battle results at all. After the battle between Lin Shun and Mo Qingshu, he was very clear that even if he was in the expansive point realm, the possibility of him defeating Lin Shun was extremely low. However, there was no reason for him to back down in front of his sweetheart. TSK. Brother Yi Jing, although you look a little pathetic when you try to be brave, you look really stupid when you try to hold on. Lin Chen laughed heartily. He put away the sacred dragon and transformed into his human form. He walked over and glanced at the little demon emperor's seat. The two looked at each other and smiled. They gave each other a thumbs up. Everything was understood without words. On both sides of the seats, in the front row on the left, a group of young monsters were gathered. All of them were glowing with mysterious lights and clouds, and their mental realms were unfathomable. This person is the legendary Lin Shun. He seems to be very troublesome. A handsome youth wearing a feathered crown laughed heartily. He looked at the arrogant woman behind him and asked with a smile, I heard that he used his eyes to refine pills. It's amazing. Princess, are you confident? The Purple Star Nation's Zi Yunqing had a beauty that could topple countries and cities. Her temperament was arrogant and cold. Hearing this question, her expression was indifferent. Her beautiful lips curled into a disdainful smile. It's not worth mentioning. The youth smiled and asked again, I heard that he didn't use his full strength in the last Genius Alchemy Conference. Zi Yunqing was as cold as snow. Showy, the youth said, I heard that he can use the sacred dragon to refine pills. Zi Yunqing said, Crooked. The youth said again, I heard that you like me. Zi Yunqing said, Get lost. You don't like me? Then why don't I take a loss? I like you. Lin Chen entered the hall. He walked to the hunchbacked elder and clasped his hands. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and his back was straight. Lin Shun of the monstrous genius ranking, participating in the Heavenly Selection Convention. The elder looked at him deeply and revealed a sinister smile. There are already enough participants. Why is there another one? Boom! A terrifying mental storm swept out like a hurricane and enveloped Lin Shun. Han Yiji and Jian Qingshang stood beside Lin Shun. The pressure suddenly increased. Fairy Crimson waved her hand and blocked the pressure for them. The two Purple Cloud King Valley elders who followed the little demon Empress changed their expressions. Oh no, this old monster also wants to suppress Lin Shun. However, the situation that everyone had expected did not occur. Lin Chen's eyes were as calm as an ancient well. He even smiled at the hunchbacked elder. His casual attitude shocked everyone present. The hunchbacked elder was moved. Chapter 1280. The dragon E-Crystal looked pathetic in front of the hunchbacked elder, but no one found it strange or surprising. If this old monster really wanted to suppress the younger generation, it would only take a single thought. However, Lin Chen's expression did not change at all. The hunchbacked elder continued to increase the spiritual pressure, but Lin Chen's appearance did not change at all. He was calm and composed, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. It was extremely unfathomable. Compared to the dragon crystal, it was a stark contrast. He even took out a few fruits that were surrounded by silver light, peeled them, and put them in his mouth. He spoke as he chewed. None of the alchemists and forces present were simple people. They immediately recognized the silver fruits in his hand. Divine wanderer fruit. Is this kid crazy? Shouldn't such a sacred item be used at the critical moment of alchemy? He just ate it casually? Many alchemists' mouths twitched, and their hearts trembled. What a waste. Lin Chen smiled and said to the hunchbacked old man, "Senior, what's wrong? Your eyes are so big. Are you seeing things from old age? If there's something wrong with your eyes, go and pour some sand. It's very effective." The elder looked deeply at Lin Chen. His spiritual pressure dissipated, and a look of admiration flashed across his eyes. Lin Chen on the monster genius list, right? The hunchbacked elder coughed a few times, but his voice was clearly heard by everyone. "I'll be in charge of the registration test this time. All of you listen up." His old and withered fingers grabbed the void. There was no fluctuation of saint power, but the entire void was crushed. The light dimmed, and a huge mountain descended. Boom! The huge mountain, which was hundreds of feet tall, descended from the shattered space. All the powerful cultivators and alchemy masters present looked solemn. Even the arrogant geniuses on the monster genius list were extremely solemn at this moment. This huge mountain was not an ordinary object. It was created by pure spiritual power. Spiritual power could create everything with a single thought. This level of mental energy attainment had already reached the territory of the Saint Rudiment stage. Those who reach the top of this mountain within 15 minutes will pass. Remember, you're not allowed to use any external objects, nor are you allowed to use your Saint Point Saint energy. You're only allowed to use your spiritual power to help others. Those who violate the rules will get lost immediately. The hunchbacked old man dropped a few words, and his figure retreated. The next moment, he sat down on the seat, trembling as he lay down. In less than 2 breaths, he began to snore, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. Fei Xiaoyu, Shangguan Lu Li, and the other geniuses looked at the giant mountain with solemn expressions. Several dozen saint-level alchemists who had signed up swallowed their saliva, gritted their teeth, and walked up the giant mountain in one step. The giant mountain shot out hundreds of thousands of spiritual light beams, shooting into the space between the eyebrows of the saint-level alchemists who stepped onto the giant mountain at the same time. Wong, wong, wong. Everyone clenched their teeth. It was as if someone was violently shaking their heads with both hands. Even standing still took a lot of effort. Whoosh! A figure rushed up. It was the dragon Right Crystal. His spiritual realm seemed to be able to support him to resist these spiritual rays and reach the peak of the mountain. Qi Mei Er and Shangguan Lu Li also began to move, but they were not much better than most of the other saint-level alchemists. Shangguan Lu Li had just taken 10 steps when she was suppressed by the spiritual rays, causing her spiritual sea to become dizzy, making it difficult for her to move. After Qi Mei Er took 20 steps, her movements gradually slowed down. Only Fei Xiaoyu was able to slowly move forward, but the pressure also increased. At this time, a voice entered the ears of the 3 girls. Don't deliberately block these spiritual rays. Release the spiritual power that is condensed. Open up your body and mind. Imagine that your spiritual power is a vast ocean. The 3 girls were startled. It was Lin Chen's voice. They immediately tried to release their tight spiritual power. At first, they were almost overturned by the spiritual pressure like a flood, and were almost eliminated. However, after the hurricane passed, what welcomed was peace. The 3 girls immediately stabilized. The influence of the spiritual rays was still there, but they were able to move forward steadily. This is... Shangguan Lu Li's face was filled with joy. Prince Lin Chun, Qi Mei Er's beautiful eyes stared at Lin Chun, beautiful and alluring. Fei Xiaoyu gave a charming smile. Thank you, big brother. Lin Chun walked over slowly and gave a relaxed smile. Let's go. Many alchemists noticed this scene and couldn't help but be moved. Could it be this little guy's doing? Everyone was surprised and suspicious. The middle-aged man beside the hunchbacked old man's eyes congealed as he laughed with interest. Amazing. He caught the main point in an instant. He even helped the other 3 applicants. It has been a long time since such an interesting young man appeared, but isn't he breaking the rules? After saying that, he looked at the hunchbacked old man who was sleeping soundly. The man shook his head and laughed. That's right, he didn't use his spiritual power to help. He only transmitted his voice to remind them. It really can't be counted as breaking the rules, ha ha ha. While talking and laughing, Lin Chun had already walked to the middle of the giant mountain, unknowingly passing most of the applicants. Chapter 1281. After 15 minutes, only 13 people had passed the test. Compared to the previous tests, the number of people was several times lower. This extremely difficult test was won by the younger generation of alchemists. If it was a few days ago, it would definitely cause a stir. But with a monster like Lin Chen around, everything seemed so dull and boring. And Qi Mei Er and the other 2 girls had all passed. Facing this difficult test, ordinary 3rd-grade Saint alchemists would find it difficult to pass. Among the 3, only Fei Xiaoyu had a chance. Thanks to Lin Chen's guidance, the 3 girls had all passed and participated in the main competition. The main competition was very simple and also very important. The results would be decided in 1 round. Right above Sky Bearing City, Sky Bearing Island would refine pills. The results would be decided in 1 round. Lin Chun went down the stage. At this time, a gaze that made him very uncomfortable was staring at him. He turned around and looked directly at the owner of the gaze. The owner of the gaze was actually a pale-faced, evil youth. He had seen this person before. That day, in the Boundary Tower's Monster Genius Selection Competition, this person had won again and again and became one of the Monster Genius candidates. After that, he had not challenged anyone else. Seeing Lin Chun staring at him, the latter grinned and revealed a creepy smile. I can't see through this person's cultivation, but he gives me a dangerous feeling. His age might not be as simple as it seems. Lin Chun made a mental note in his heart. At this time, the youth stood up and left. Lin Chun narrowed his eyes. He could clearly see that the youth was tiptoeing. Interesting. Lin Chun and the others were the last batch of applicants. This time, a total of 391 Saint alchemists had signed up. This number might not be the number of top alchemists from every region of the Holy World, but at least in the 36 regions, they were all famous figures who could shake the world with their might. Saint-level grandmasters, all of them were gathered in one place. Every one of them was a heavyweight. Those below 6th grade sects were VIPs. Even 6th grade sects lacked Saint alchemists of this level. They were all delicious steam buns. On the contrary, even if the young alchemists participated in the Monster Genius Selection Competition, their auras could not compare to the older generation alchemists. After the registration ended, Lin Chun met with the Purple Cloud King Valley. Lin Chun, we meet again. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. When are you coming to the southern region King Valley? You can come if you have nothing to do. The 2 elders of the King Valley asked with a warm smile. When they saw the young man again, they sighed in their hearts. This young man, who had once required their help, had become a figure on the monster ranking in less than a year. This kind of growth arc was simply unprecedented and unparalleled. In terms of ranking on the Demon Genius list, there was only a difference of more than 700 places between him and the young mistress. This gap might continue to shrink. I am deeply grateful to the 2 elders for your help in the past. If you have any requests for alchemy, I will definitely do my best. Lin Chen smiled. He was not an ungrateful person. Ha ha. If you want to thank someone, thank our Mississippi. We're just following the rules. The two elders winked at each other and smiled knowingly. Lin Chen smiled and shook his head. He turned to look at the little demon empress. She was wearing a light orange long dress today. No matter how many times he looked at her, she was still stunning. Her pure and beautiful face was enchanting. When the two met, the little demon empress' charming face bloomed into a smile. She asked Lin Chen with great interest, "How is it? How confident are you? We're all old friends. You cannot tell me this, right?" She was naturally referring to Lin Chen's confidence in winning the championship. The little demon empress was a rare person who got along well with Lin Chen. They had not interacted for long, but they understood each other very well. Lin Chen rubbed his chin. "Normally, if I use all my trump cards, I have less than a 50% chance of winning." The two elders of the Purple Cloud King Valley thought for a moment and were instantly moved. Close to a 50% chance of winning the championship? This was the Heavenly Selection Convention. It was not like the Alchemy Convention in the past, where geniuses of the same age competed. Just what level had this little fellow transformed to? However, there might be an accident this time. So I'm preparing a trump card. If it succeeds, I should have more than a 90% chance of winning. But if it fails, I'm afraid I won't even be able to enter the top 100. Lin Chen shrugged his shoulders, scaring the two elders. They looked at Lin Chen as if they were looking at a monster. 90%? Are you still human? Qing Wu. At this time, Long Yijing appeared beside the Purple Cloud King Valley seats. He first glanced viciously at Lin Chen, then looked at the little demon empress affectionately and held the golden jade box. "This is the birthday gift I prepared for you, Qing Wu. On your birthday, 36 days later, I still have to participate in the alchemy competition, so I'll congratulate you in advance." After saying that, Long Yijing did not even give the little demon empress time to reject and open the jade box. Inside was a snow-white ginseng. It was thick and long, and each strand had a different luster. It emitted an indescribable attraction. 5-colored dragon monarch ginseng. It's second only to the highest grade, white dragon monarch ginseng. The two elders of the King Valley narrowed their eyes and cried out in shock. Their hearts trembled. When this item appeared, many experts in the registration hall looked at it with surprise and shock. This item could help increase one's saint power, open a saint acupoint, and help one break through a bottleneck. Especially for Fourth Heaven Saint Realm experts, this item had a certain effect. When a Fourth Heaven Saint Realm expert broke through a saint acupoint, there was a certain chance of increasing the acupoint expansion. That's right, increasing the acupoint expansion. To put it bluntly, this was a supreme saint item that could make a Fourth Heaven Saint Realm expert go crazy. It was not strange that the two elders of the King Valley were so moved because they were also at the bottleneck of the late stage of the Fourth Heaven Saint Realm. The value of this item was so high that even Lin Chen's wandering god fruit paled in comparison. Is Long Yijing crazy? Giving away such a heaven-defying treasure? Isn't it better if he keeps it for himself when he expands his acupoints to break through to a higher realm? Even if he's on the monstrous genius ranking like us, he won't take out this item so easily. This guy's going all out. At least, this young master doesn't have the confidence to buy this thing. If he can win the heart of a beauty, why not give it to her? Look at who he's giving it to. The little demon empress of the monstrous genius ranking. She's one of the top 10 beauties on the monstrous genius ranking. If he can win her heart, he'll wake up smiling in his dreams. Some of the geniuses on the monstrous genius ranking and Saint Grade alchemists were shocked and sighed. This was too extravagant. Long Yijing firmly believed that no one in the acupoint expansion realm could resist the temptation of this item. This item was passed down to him by his ancestors, and it was for his own use. However, he had already made up his mind to chase after the little demon empress. But in the next moment, he gave me a gift. The little demon empress was like a pure girlfriend. Her beautiful lips curled up, and she twisted her slender waist. She grabbed Lin Chen's arm and shook it as she mumbled, Even a pervert like him is so considerate. Handsome Lin must have an even better gift, right? Hurry up and take it out for me to see. The male geniuses almost spurted blood from their noses. With the little demon empress' pure and beautiful face, coupled with her charming temperament and hot figure, who could resist her when she acted coquettishly? Looking at the little demon empress' sly smile that was not afraid of causing trouble, the corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched slightly. F***, she's drawing the fire onto me. At that moment, Lin Chen, who was bursting with a sense of justice, wanted to scold her loudly, but she was simply too big. Chapter 1282. Long Yijing narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Chen with even more provocation. He didn't believe that Lin Chen could give a better gift than him. Many monstrous geniuses and participating alchemists looked at Lin Chen with interest. They were also curious about this mysterious and legendary youth. What kind of treasure would he take out to compete with Long Yijing? Gift? I didn't prepare anything. Lin Chen shrugged, causing everyone who was waiting to see a good show to be shocked. Ha ha! Lin Chen, you still have some self-awareness. Long Yijing was in high spirits. Even his friends on the monstrous genius list couldn't stand it anymore. Was this still the scheming and calm Long Yijing they knew? It was as if Long Yijing would lose his mind as long as Lin Chen was involved. However, Lin Chen changed the topic and smiled playfully. Although I don't have a gift, I have prepared a surprise. What surprise? The little demon empress immediately became excited and stared at him with shining eyes. It won't be a surprise if I tell you. You'll know when the Heaven's Choice Convention begins. Lin Chen smiled. Lin Chen, are you having stage fright? Haha, I didn't expect you to be so weak. If you can't take out something decent, don't get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. A youth stood up from the seat behind Lin Chen. He was wearing a green robe with a blade at his waist. He had a dignified appearance and a cold smile. He was another genius on the monstrous genius list, Long Yijing's good friend, and also one of the participants in the Heaven's Choice Convention. This little guy is putting up a strong front. It's normal for young people to not admit defeat. Even some of the veteran Saint rank alchemists thought that Lin Chen was putting up a strong front because he didn't have a good treasure. Just take out your big treasure and show it to everyone. The little demon empress didn't give up. Do you think I'm a fool from that side? I won't be used by you so easily. Lin Chen shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, he let go of the little demon empress' slender jade hand that was grabbing onto his arm. TCH, the little demon empress stuck out her tongue. When she turned to look at the dragon ritual crystal, her tone was indifferent. Take it back. I'm not interested in you. If you try to annoy me with these things again, I'll break your third leg. Qing Wu. Long Yijing shook her head and closed the jade box, but the corners of her lips curled up slightly. He confidently believed that he had already won back some face. Even the other freaks thought that Lin Chen was running away at the last minute. He couldn't beat the others, so why would he say such harsh words? Lin Chen. Long Yijing roared and pointed at Lin Chen from afar. His words were sonorous. I challenge you to a duel in the name of the monster ranking. Lin Chen almost laughed out loud. What era was this, and they were still playing this game? Duel? Are you itching for a beating again? Lin Chen raised his eyebrows. Fighting and killing in the Heaven's Choice Convention. Where is the decency? Long Yijing said righteously, but some people looked at him with disdain. Who didn't know that he had lost to Lin Chen before? What I want to compete with you is alchemy. In the Heaven's Choice Convention, whoever can refine a higher quality pill will win. The loser will never be able to get close to Qing Wu. How about that? Long Yijing took out the monster token, and it shone brightly. The monster ranking duel was a duel with the name of the monster ranking. Those who violated the duel would have their ranking lowered. In serious cases, they might even be kicked out of the monster ranking. Oh, you want to regain your confidence through alchemy? No problem. Lin Chen calmly took out his monster token as well. The two ancient tokens shone brightly, signifying that the agreement was established. Big brother, Prince Lin Shun, don't be rash. Fei Xiaoyu and Shangwan Liuli exclaimed at the same time. Long Yijing's alchemy skills were extremely terrifying. Some of the monsters that were ranked higher than him in alchemy might not be his match. Don't worry, he will never do anything rash. Han Yiji caressed Fei Xiaoyu's hair. The most beautiful young man in the sacred boundary was standing next to a cute little girl. It was a heartwarming scene. Long Yijing said confidently, I know that you have a spiritual skill that can reduce the spiritual pressure from a spiritual mountain. But alchemy isn't just a competition of spiritual power. Lin Shin suddenly smiled at Han Yiji and said, Yiji, how should we describe his behavior in our class 66? Han Yiji smiled, revealing a smile that would make any girl jealous. She smiled at Long Yijing and said, the rain has stopped and the wind has slowed down. The class monitor has kept a low profile, and Brother Yijing thinks that he can do it again. Boom! At this time, an azure spiritual spike pierced through the air, aiming straight for Lin Shun. This mental piercing was extremely powerful. Moreover, it was only aimed at Lin Shun alone. His mental control had reached perfection. Huff, Lady Scarlet, who was standing behind Lin Shun, blew out a breath to disperse the spiritual surge. Oh, someone wants to ambush me. Lin Shun smiled playfully and turned to look at the owner of the spiritual surge. On the seat, the beauty's skin was whiter than snow. She was cold and arrogant, like a snow lotus in the sky. She was as pure as ice, but there was a bone-chilling coldness to her. Do you only know how to hide behind women? The beauty sneered. She was the princess of the sacred nation, Zi Yunqing. When she saw Lin Chen's performance in the first test, she was curious, which was rare. She wanted to test him, but Lady Scarlet stopped her. Jian Qingsheng whispered to Lin Shun, she is the princess of the rank 7 sacred nation, Zi Yunqing. All right, I don't want to know her name. She doesn't have a good figure, and she's not even as pretty as you. Lin Shun raised his hand and stopped Jian Qingsheng from introducing. He completely ignored Zi Yunqing. He had seen too many women like her. Arrogant, cold, self-righteous. Jian Qingsheng's ears reddened, and Zi Yunqing's expression became even colder. Lin let out a deep sigh. Why is it that wherever I go, there are always countless people looking for trouble? Is it because I'm handsome that I'm destined to be envied? It's so annoying. If the heavens gave me another chance, I would choose to hide in the mountains and cultivate for thousands of years. Clap, clap, clap. There was a round of applause. All right, little guys, if you have any grievances, settle them with alchemy at the assembly. This isn't a place for you to fight. A kind-looking old woman in a purple and gold robe walked over with a smile to smooth things over. Her spiritual aura was as unfathomable as a black hole, causing the arrogance of the geniuses on the monster rankings to subside. The Dan domain was a place filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Some of these old monsters were once members of the monster rankings. They were terrifying to the extreme. Even if they couldn't threaten their lives, it would be easy to teach them a lesson. It seems that this chosen assembly will be interesting to watch. It's just some small fights among the young. This old man has reserved one of the top 10. Qingshan, old geezer, don't be in a hurry to brag. Drink a few more cups tonight before you brag. Oomph. A bunch of immature brats. What do they know about alchemy? Let this old man show them the greatness and mysteries of alchemy. The older generation of Saint-grade alchemists treated it as a show and left. Hey, what's the surprise you were talking about? Tell me a little in advance. At this time, the little demon empress couldn't help but ask. The surprise is, Lin Shin approached the little demon empress. She immediately leaned her ear over and sniffed. So fragrant, so big. The surprise is the explosion. Little demon empress, ? Lin Shin smiled confidently. And the explosion is art. Chapter 1283. Explosion. Fei Xiaoyu, Qi Mei and the others stilled. How could alchemy be related to explosions? Lin Shun suddenly smiled at the little demon empress. Speaking of which, if I defeat Long Yijing, you won't have to see him again. How is it? I helped you chase away an annoying person and did you a good deed. How do you plan to repay me? Then come to my room. I'll tell you. The little demon empress smiled seductively, her eyes flowing with cunning blue waves. She was so beautiful that even the girls were mesmerized by her. A certain Lin Shun said angrily, "Who do you think I am? Why can't we talk openly? Why do we have a talk in a room? I like to talk outside." The girls. When Lin Shun finished signing up, the registration period for the Heavenly Choice Convention officially ended. The Heavenly Choice Convention gave the participants 7 days to prepare. The merchant groups in Sky-Bearing City were even more busy. They had received too many lists of medicinal ingredients for saint-level alchemists. The medicinal ingredients listed on the list were all rare treasures and expensive items. During this time, Han Yiji and Jian Qingsheng bought medicinal ingredients crazily for Lin Shen. On the third day, while Sky-Bearing City was still bustling with activity, a phenomenon appeared in the sky. 100-meter-tall pillar of light illuminated the west side of Sky-Bearing City. It was wrapped in 2 sacred rings. Who was refining a grade 2 saint pill? The alchemists channeled their mental energy and looked from thousands of miles away. It was the residence of the young monster ranking. When they looked closely, it was Lin Chen's position on the young monster ranking. That's not right. Concocting the holy elixir requires a high degree of concentration. Isn't he afraid of being mentally exhausted by concocting the holy elixir at this juncture? Is this young man trying to build momentum and pressure us? Naive, too naive. Many saint-level alchemists were disdainful of the phenomenon caused by Lin Chen's temporary residence. Some shook their heads and laughed. No matter what the reason was, refining pills at this critical juncture was an irrational choice. Even if he wanted to adjust the performance and feel of his alchemy hand seals, it was definitely not the right time. Sky-Bearing City, a tall tower. The hunchbacked old man held a wine pot in his hand. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the void and see through everything. Looks like this old man has overestimated this young man. Could it be that he is really the one who is venting his anger? The hunchbacked old man, who had once been on the demon genius list, didn't see Lin Chen's alchemy clearly either. In the purple bamboo forest, a beautiful and elegant woman, Zi Yinxing, was reading a pill scroll. She couldn't help but frown when she saw the 2 saint rings soaring into the sky. That direction is Lin Shun. Refining pills at this critical juncture. What was he trying to do? Is that all he's capable of? In the Mist Pavilion, Long Yijing laughed heartily. Lin Shun, you also have times when you lose your mind. You're still trying to concoct pills with your eyes. You're trying to concoct a 2nd-grade sacred pill now. Let's see how you're going to beat me on the day of the competition. In the Star Pavilion, the stars twinkled and strange phenomena appeared. A handsome and fierce young man opened his eyes. Demonic chi surged and entered his pupils. When he sensed the appearance of the divine core, he turned to look at the young man sitting in the attic. It's that boy. What is he trying to do? The young man shook his head. A cold smile appeared on his pale face. Concocting pills with your eyes? Oof. This king will personally suppress these alchemists in this grand assembly. The 100 families were puzzled by Lin Chen's pill concoction this time. No one thought highly of Lin Shun. Everyone thought that he was wasting his energy. However, it seemed that Lin Shun would never play his cards according to the rules. Boom, boom, boom. In the next 3 days, strange phenomena appeared in Lin Chen's temporary residence again and again. Saint rings appeared out of nowhere. This was the sign that the divine core was successfully concocted. At the beginning, everyone was very disdainful. On the 4th day, they were shocked and doubtful. On the 5th day, they were shocked. Whoosh, whoosh. On the 6th day, the sky above Sky-Bearing City was filled with red clouds and holy light. The fragrance of pills spread between the clouds. He's still not stopping? Oh my God, what is he trying to do? This is already the 31st and 29th grade 2nd grade sacred pill. Impossible. Didn't alchemists make a move? What kind of efficiency is this? It's ridiculously fast. The forces, geniuses, and alchemy grandmasters gathered in sky-bearing city felt their scalps tingle. This efficiency was too abnormal. No one could produce so many divine cores as quickly as this boy. But the problem was that none of these divine cores surpassed grade 4. No matter how fast he was, no one felt much pressure. There was a world of difference between grade 4 and grade 3. Finally, the phenomena stopped on the 7th day. The Heaven's Choice Convention officially began. The 12 plazas of sky-bearing city were filled with people. I heard that there were grade 5 divine pills in the past Heaven's Choice conventions. What kind of super pills were those? Today, my goddess is participating. I've pulled 100 geniuses from the genius ranking to cheer her on. If anyone shouts louder when she concocts the pill, I'll double the reward. While I can't be there, at least I have a chance to see the phenomena. So excited. Excited my ass. Calm down. The handsome ones have already subscribed. The ugly ones are still waiting for a free one. I'm here to see the most handsome man. The 12 plazas were filled with heated discussions. The scene of pill concoction wasn't here. This was where the spatial stones projected the images of pill concoction. There weren't many people who could get a spot to observe the scene. Hundreds of thousands of feet above sky-bearing city, there was an island floating like a giant beast. In the white jade plaza of tens of thousands of Mu, 391 saint-level alchemists were gathered. Only the Heaven's Choice Convention could create such a scene. Only the rewards of the Heaven's Choice Convention could move these old monsters and attract so many famous saint-level alchemists. The sects that could enter Sky-Bearing Island were at least peak grade 5 sects. Normal grade 5 sects didn't qualify for an invitation. Many pavilions were built in the air on the island. Some of the powerful warriors were enjoying hot tea and fine wine in the pavilions as they enjoyed the view. There were many saint-level alchemists who cast surprise gazes in one direction as soon as they entered the arena. That direction was Lin Shun, who didn't even have a pill cauldron. At this time, Lin Shun was in high spirits. His arms were crossed in front of his chest, and his face was full of excitement and a smile. He looked like he was about to go all out. Wasn't he too strong? Was this the person who had refined dozens of saint-level pills? Even if a young person had a lot of energy, it shouldn't be this strong. It seems that this child has an alchemist following him. The one who refined that day shouldn't be him. That's right. It's normal for a young genius like him to have a master. His master should be grade 5, right? Maybe even higher. I won't believe it even if you beat me to death that he's the one who refined dozens of saint-level pills in 7 days. It's 100% his master. At this time, a graceful figure appeared on the high platform in the sky. Everyone, I am your head examiner this time. Her voice was like a clear spring, ethereal and beautiful. The young geniuses on the monster ranking were stunned. In such a grand event, a beautiful woman was actually the chief examiner? Where's the old grandpa? Where's the otherworldly expert? Only the older generation of alchemists seemed to have seen a ghost. Their mouths twitched slightly. A certain Lin Chuan stared at the graceful figure with a serious expression and nodded thoughtfully. Amen, as expected, that little fairy is a bit bigger. Chapter 1284. It's actually Senior Ilian. She's the head examiner. The pressure is too great. This lass is the disciple of an old friend of mine. I didn't expect her to become one of the elders of the Dan region's Elder Council. Some of the older generation alchemists sighed with fear. This Song Ilian was a saint-level alchemist, ranked 6th grade. Furthermore, she had created 3 unique alchemy techniques and books, creating many precedents that had never been seen before in alchemy. It could be said that many of the young people in the Dan domain were still using her experience and skills in alchemy. It was said that her chances of advancing to 7th grade were limitless. She was the most legendary woman in the Dan region in recent times. Extreme geniuses always had to pay a price. This Song Ilian was untainted by power, untainted by worldly affairs, and even more unfeeling. She had never had feelings for a man and woman. In her eyes, there was only the path of alchemy. At this time, Song Ilian, who was wearing a flowing cloud dress, slowly opened her mouth. Her voice was clear and indifferent. This alchemy will last for 30 days. During this period, if there are any failures in any part of the alchemy, you will be eliminated immediately. Alchemy is perfect and sacred. To create a perfect alchemy, no failures are allowed. When these words came out, the 391 saint-level alchemists had different expressions. It was very interesting. No failure in any part of the process was allowed. This pressure multiplied in an instant. This woman is challenging me. Lin Shui rubbed his chin. This was the first time he felt troubled. His ultimate alchemy method was not complete yet. Failure was unavoidable. When these words came out, the one who felt the most pressure was probably Lin Shun. Forget it, the front row is useless. Instead of choosing the most conservative way to fight, it's better to choose the one with the highest probability of success. If I want to win now, I can only surpass that level. Lin Chen's gaze became sharp and piercing. The final result of this competition will be decided by me. In addition to the 10 elders, if 8 of the 10 elders' opinions are different from mine, the final result will be changed to the elders' final decision. Song Ilian waved her hand. Everyone is clear about the rules. Quality is paramount. Failure is not allowed. I won't say anything else. This year's Heavenly Selection Convention officially begins. Clang, clang, clang. As soon as he finished speaking, the pill cauldrons fell to the ground. The various pill refinement hand seals were brilliant and varied, and the phenomenon of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning bloomed one after another like 100 schools of thought contending. There was Shangwan Lioli, who refined pills alone with a fox, Chi Mei Er, who had an orange rank handprint, Fei Xiaoyu, who refined pills without a furnace, and a demon who bit the tip of his tongue and used his blood to refine pills. There were some monstrous geniuses who were drowsy, and they were actually forming hand seals to concoct pills in their sleep, concocting pills with their eyes closed. Some even took out part of their Providence plant pouches and used the power of the Providence plant pouches to refine medicinal herbs. When the people below Sky-bearing Island saw this, they cheered and discussed fervently. It was as if a pot had exploded. Suddenly, a dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. Many experts looked over in surprise. Long Yi Jing, who was on the north side of the White Jade Square, was forming an alchemy hand seal. Countless thunder, flood dragons, and thunder dragons roamed around him. The saint acupoints all over his body released the power of thunder and lightning, causing a thundercloud to descend. Lightning bolts continuously struck down and entered his cauldron. Orange tear pill, refining hand seal, thunder dragon, sacrificial seal. The Long family's secret technique was domineering and powerful. This kid's arrogance is not without reason. Only someone with sufficient skill and confidence in their own alchemy skills can have such boldness. I have to say that between him and Lin Shun, I am indeed more optimistic about this kid, Long Yi Jing. This Long Yi Jing is suitable to be my disciple. Let's see if he is interested after the competition. The 2 Elixir region elders stroked their beards and smiled. They were very optimistic about Long Yi Jing. Rumble. A loud boom rang out, and an old man with fiery hair and red eyebrows appeared. He sat cross-legged in midair and formed an alchemy hand seal with both hands. Waves of dense spiritual power controlled the fire elemental energy and refined thousands of medicinal herbs from within the volcano. This is 1,000 regions, old man Hua, right? This old fellow's orange tear pill refining hand seal is even better than before. He moved 3 Scarlet Flame Mountains into his Providence plant pouch and opened up a portion of the Providence plant pouch. He used the energy of the Scarlet Flame Mountains to refine pills. He is really wild. This old fellow has to at least enter the top 10 this time, maybe even higher. The elders on both sides of Sky-bearing Island stroked their beards and nodded. Their eyes were full of praise. This group of elders included the hunchbacked old man who had participated in the last round of assessment. Whoosh! Another branch of a towering tree appeared. Flowers bloomed in the sky, and pink cherry blossoms filled the sky. As the cherry blossoms bloomed, the faint sound of a phoenix reverberated. A few peach branches swayed, and star-like spiritual power poured into the alchemy cauldron. As the flowers bloomed in the sky, a cold and beautiful woman stood at the tip of the cherry branches. She looked elegant and proud. The beautiful woman's jade-like fingers left after images as she smoothly formed the alchemy hand seals. She used the power of the cherry branches to refine the medicinal herbs in the alchemy cauldron. At this scene, every expert from every force present had a serious expression on their faces. This was the branch of a mid-grade spirit plant, the true phoenix cherry tree. She had monopolized a mid-grade spirit plant of providence. Her foundation was a little too terrifying. What surprised the elders even more was that this woman could actually control the spirit plant of providence to refine pills. This woman is Zi Yunxing, so powerful. She can actually control a mid-grade spirit plant of providence to refine pills? I've never seen or heard of such methods. Even Song Ilian looked over in surprise. She clearly did not expect such a person to exist in the younger generation. Yes, she fully utilized the advantages of her bloodline and the power of nature. The two can even combine perfectly. This woman is a moldable talent. Perhaps we can apply for a spot for her. Even if she doesn't win, she can enter the Elder Council in advance. Song Ilian nodded slightly, as if she had seen through Zi Yunxing's deeper secrets. However, the next moment, even Song Ilian was moved. She suddenly locked onto a young man. This person's face was so pale that he looked like he would faint at any moment. His 10 fingers danced wildly like flying flowers. Spiritual power condensed at the tip of each finger like wheat maintaining thousands of spiritual power ribbons. The strange thing was that there were actually 3 dragon corpses in front of him. He had put all the medicinal herbs, regardless of whether they were grade 7 or grade 8, into the dragon corpses. The 3 dragon corpses seemed to have been reborn. They opened their dragon eyes strangely, and the dragon aura of old age swept through the entire area. Everyone was shocked. There was actually such a pill refining method in this world? Using corpses to refine pills? Who exactly is he? Why does his spiritual power give me a very strange feeling? Song Ilian's brows were tightly knitted, and her pretty face was serious. A certain Lin Chuan was in awe. It was too showy. Everyone was so strong. How was he going to survive? Lin Chuan looked up at the sky and sighed. 9 out of 10 pills refined into 8 different patterns, 7 different hand seals, and 6 different postures. Moreover, the 5 elements cauldron did not contain any medicinal ingredients. Only I, Lin Chuan, who is half-hearted and handsome. Horizontal scroll. What am I doing? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.